I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming today. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Supervisor Moore,
Present.
Councilwoman McNamara,
Present.
Councilman Isili,
Present.
Councilman Pell.
Present.
Steve Loney's not with us today.
Okay, thank you. Before we get started, Teresa Kiernan, our receiver of taxes, would like to make a brief statement. Come on up, Terry.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's that time of year again to speak about property taxes. And I had wanted to wish Tommy John well, so wherever you are, good luck in Albany. The property tax bills have been dropping in the mail for a few days already, and the largest portion will be mailed by the end of this week. The first installment, as always, is due by January 10th, either postmarked or in person. The tax receiver's office is available every day from 8:30 a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m., with the exception of Christmas Eve, which we close at noon, and of course on Christmas Day we'll be closed. Because the town has unfortunately just started the septic project, it's significantly impeding access to the building. So I want to encourage everyone to utilize our other payment options rather than trying to come in person. Our online payment portal is available 24 hours a day, and you can pay with your checking account or a credit card. Please visit the town website at southamptontowny.gov and click Pay Your Taxes in the middle of the page. There are fees associated with the online payment options, so it's $1.75 for an electronic check or 2.5% for a credit card payment. If you are technology challenged, you can call my office and pay over the telephone by dialing 631-702-2470. The fees are the same, and one of my very kind and patient staff members will be ready to assist you. You can also pay at one of our banking partners. We use Dime Bank or M&T Bank. If you are going to the bank, you must have your original tax bill because they need the payment coupon in order to properly process your payment. And of course, you can always mail your payment in the self-addressed envelope that comes with your bill. We do have two addresses. One is here at Town Hall and one goes directly to our lockbox center. So if you see an envelope that has a P.O. box in Newark, New Jersey, it is correct and it is a valid mailing address. That's our bank lockbox. Again, we're open 8:30 to 4 p.m. I don't want people to try and come to the building. If you do come and you can't get parking or what have you, please call my office. If you're older, we'll come out and get you or whatever we can do to help in this unfortunate circumstance. And in conclusion, I want to say that people in general have a pessimistic view of government due to its lack of common sense and being disconnected from our citizens. And I'm disappointed that we have to keep proving them right. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everybody. Thank you.
Well, I think what Terry was referring to is the fact that we're doing this construction project now, but it's something that has to be done. We have to have our septic system replaced, and we thought do it now rather than during the summer when it's even more crowded and parking's even at a bigger premium. So we do apologize for the inconvenience, and we're going to get it done as soon as possible. Okay, I move to approve the minutes from the regular town board meeting of November 26, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Madam Clerk, would you please read the communications?
Certainly. The following communications have been received in the office of the town clerk. We have received public notices from the Suffolk County Department of Economic Development and Planning, a notice of 30-day public comment for agricultural districts. Village of Southampton, Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation hearing notices for Breeze Lane, Meadowgrass Lane, another in Breeze Lane, and Lee Avenue in the Village of Southampton, in addition to Zoning Board of Appeals hearing notices for First Neck Lane in the village. Town fire districts. have their annual elections on December 10th, 2024, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. in Bridgehampton, East Quogue, Eastport, Flanders, Hampton Bays, North Sea Fire District. In Riverhead, it's 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. In Southampton, it's 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And West Hampton Beach Fire District is 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Financial disclosure statement was filed by the listed individual, and emails, letters, and land use applications have been received regarding the following: Best Steering Committee interim report, CPF acquisition of Casabasso property in West Hampton, Zoning Board of Appeals hearing notices for Bridgehampton Sag Harbor Turnpike and Dune Road in Bridgehampton as well. Bid and request for proposals were received on December 4th for the property cleanup to bring properties back into compliance for code enforcement. DOMS and various pricing was received, and there's 6 listed companies. Reports were received from the Town Comptroller for the November 2024 monthly financial report. And that concludes our communications for this meeting's agenda.
Thank you, Sunday. I have 4 walk-ons. The 5th we're going to hold because for the December 19th meeting, since Councilman Scavoni's not here. So I move to add these to the agenda. The first is Town Board Resolution ID number 48336, a 2025 notice to bidders for Lake Agawam South parking improvements. Second is Town Board Resolution ID number 48351 to authorize the purchase of roofing products and services from Roof Services of New York, a Tecta America Company LLC, using Omnia Partners contract to provide roof repair at the David W. Crowhand Community Center. The third is Town Board Resolution ID number 48352, which is the warrant number 23. And the fourth is Town Board Resolution ID number 48357 to accept awards and authorize the supervisor to execute any and all documents for the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority Clean Energy Community Program Action Grants for the purchase and installation of solar panels on the Waste Management Recycling Center at 1370 Majors Path. So I move to add these to the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the first public hearing?
Certainly. Public hearing number 1 for funding for water quality improvement project for the Suffolk County Water Authority Water Main Extensions Project at Old Country Road in Hamlet of West Hampton.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor, Town Council members. Jacqueline Fenlon here, Director for Community Preservation Department. We are here today to consider funding for the Suffolk County Water Authority Water Main Extension, which would impact the area in West Hampton in the proximity of Old Country Road. This is to bring safe drinking water to the residents in this area that are currently not served by water mains. So we received an application this year from Suffolk County Water Authority for the water main extensions that are necessary. I do apologize, I did not have a larger map able to be printed, but this is the map here. And if anyone wants to come take a look, I know the town board has reviewed this earlier, but the extensions are noted in red and the existing water mains are noted in blue. But this is in an amount of $1,208,672, which is authorized to be utilized for water quality money. It is specifically mentioned under the definitions of section 140 of the town code that says a water quality project includes the construction of public water mains and connections to provide drinking water to inhabitants whose drinking water supply has been contaminated by toxic chemicals as defined in the Environmental Conservation Law, hazardous substances as defined in Environmental Conservation Law, and emerging contaminants that are defined in the Public Health Law. So this would be to make sure that these residents have access to clean water in this location. I do have, thankfully, somebody from the Suffolk County Water Authority office is actually here on Zoom. His name is Daniel Dubois. He's the Director of Communications and External Affairs, so he is available via Zoom if anyone would like to hear from him or have any questions. So I just wanted to let the board know that he is available. So I don't know if Kevin can let him in.
Sure. All right, well, I don't have any cards for this public hearing, so why don't we invite Kevin to come in and say a few words to us. Thanks,
Yeah,
Jackie.
so Dan.
And while we're waiting for him, I'll just
mention this is similar to what we use the water quality money for in East Quogue for connections, and the contamination in this instance is PFAS. And the county is, I believe, providing funds as well.
They are. Yeah, they've already done water testing as well. They've received, the county is contributing funds as well as some grant applications that they've recently been awarded.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can actually, I have the application here.
Kevin, are you able to let Dan in?
Yeah, and just, oh, no, Dan on Zoom? Okay. So the water main construction, I'll just go over the figures, is a total of 1.4 million. They are requesting that CPF pay $425,962. So there is matching funds of $978,820 on that. There's also tapping costs that they're requesting, which is $230,000 and $220. And then private service lines. So there's also substantial matching funds of $1.25 million for those private service line constructions, and they have been requested of us of $318,343. And I can tell you that the matching funds for this, the total project is $3,637,492 with matching funds of $2,428,820. So the total requested is 1.208672 with the congressional direction. So I think that's the federal grant, which is the 1.25, and Suffolk County testing provided $200,000.
And also to be noted that we are not, unlike the East Quad program, we are not handling the application
Yes.
for all of these connections.
Correct. This will not be done on an independent basis, which actually saves the town a lot of cost and time processing. So this will all be handled through the Suffolk County Water Authority.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's fortunate that we had the funds to support this clean
Thankfully,
drinking water
we did have
initiative.
water quality funds. You know, after our grant rounds, we were able to utilize the water quality funding for this.
Well, if there are no other comments and no one, Kevin, is anyone else on Zoom that wishes to be heard at this first public hearing?
No one on Zoom.
Okay. Well, thanks, Jackie. Then I move to close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Before I read the next public hearing, could everyone please turn off their cell phones, or not turn them off, turn off the volume on them?
Silence.
Oh, and I did just want to say, for this consideration, there is a resolution on this agenda for funding of the Suffolk County Water Main Extension, which is Resolution 2024-1416.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice of public hearing for the second hearing?
Certainly. Public hearing number 2 for the Water Quality Improvement Project requested by the Town of Southampton Highway Department for stormwater remediation for Long Neck Boulevard, Flanders.
Hi, good afternoon again, Madam Supervisor, Town Council members. Sure.
Hold on, I think Kevin, is there a way to just make the mic a little bit louder for the room? We're having a hard time hearing the speaker. Raise it up a little bit. Try it now, Jackie.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Oh, that's a little better.
That's better? Okay, so it has to be closer. Okay, I'll try to speak closer to the mic.
Thank you.
So good afternoon again. This is another water quality funding request that has been requested by the Highway Department for stormwater remediation at Long Neck Boulevard in Flanders. This is a project that was submitted by the Town Highway Department in March of 2024 with additional submissions in August of 2024. This is proposing a stormwater remediation project which will capture existing stormwater that is not currently being treated, and it will be directing the majority of the water also to a bioswale at the very terminus of Long Neck Boulevard, which will be planted with native vegetation that is going to be saltwater tolerant. So this will be reducing the harmful impacts of stormwater flow that is currently just traveling down the road and going directly into Reeves Bay. This project, because of the bioswale area, there will be a depression there. So this project also proposes a pedestrian access over that depression and bioswale, which will still serve for public access to the beach area for residents. I do have Keith Masseria here also from LK McLean for any technical questions that are here, and I know he's provided the board.
The visual for the project. So this is
Would you like to speak at the podium?
sure. This is the end of Long Neck Road, and the bioswale that Jacqueline was talking about is in this vicinity. And there's a dune crossover boardwalk to access the beach. So this will be about a 12-inch depression, and the water will still be able to flow from the roadway eventually onto the beach after it's stored in about 12 inches of depth.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody on the board have any? I do have 2 cards on this.
No.
Can you show it this way, please?
Actually, the camera will be able to focus on it, and then you'll be able to see it on the screen. Oh, can you see it now? Sorry, we just had to set it up so you could.
He'll zoom in on it.
Yeah.
So the crossover is that it's all obviously ADA compliant.
ADA compliant, untreated, travel corridor.
There's stairs on it.
Well, so there's a ramp, so it is actually not ADA compliant, but we can look at the design, but because of the change of grade, we're actually raising the elevation at the end of the street so that you don't have as much tidal impacts.
Okay.
So because of that, you would have to have a pretty substantial ramp on the way down. But it is ADA compliant to the ramp and lookout. There are a few stairs that are needed because of that grade change. So, this is not a bathing beach, but there will be public walkover access in this location. But this is essentially the way to capture it. I know Keith has been working with the highway department. So I know Keith has been working with the highway department to design this. So we can evaluate the couple of stairs that are needed at the end, but there is a need to raise the grading at the end of the road so that we're not increasing the tidal impacts.
I'm
to
just
the end of the
concerned
road.
because I know that there's older individuals in this community that access the beach, and there's currently no stairs.
Yeah.
I
Just an
wouldn't want to
at-grade.
impede access to the beach.
Well, there's stairs. There's an issue with ADA compliance. Is that
No.
There's no stairs
Currently,
now.
there's no stairs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just a dune.
Oftentimes, the end of that boardwalk will be covered with sand or sediment or whatever accumulates on the beach. The stairs are more of like an emergency, access point in the event that we do get some erosion and the grade drops a little bit.
Okay.
But we can certainly look into the ramp as the project progresses.
Okay.
All right, well, there are a couple of people that would like to speak. So, but stick around, please. Vincent Masarafidi.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm reading this.
Could you give us your name, please? I'm sure I
I'm
can
sorry?
pronounce it properly.
Just identify yourself. when you-
Vincent Musarafiti. You pronounce it correct. Thank
You
you.
say it a lot better though.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I have that accent. Okay, so I'm reading this for Paul and Vicky, and the last name is Wojak. And it's the Southampton Board, of course. My husband and I own a home in Flanders community on Bayview Pines. We are elated over the water quality improvement project that has been proposed and the funding that is being allocated to it. Since flooding and drainage have become such a serious problem in our community, we are hopeful that the proposed project will help a great deal with the flooding and stormwater drainage near our beautiful beach, and that it will improve the water quality in the bay, which is so important to all of our communities that are adjacent to it and the environment. While we expect more details, will be provided in the public hearing about it, and questions on concerns we may have will be addressed. I don't like it, but it's how it says. We are wholeheartedly in favor of the project based on what we have read and would like to know how we in the community can help support this implementation. Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank
Thank you. All right, Irene Musarafiti.
Hi, everybody. I'm Irene Musarafidi, 41 Oaks Avenue, Flanders. I'm the treasurer of the Bayview Pines Civic Association. And I just want to clear up one thing. This is a bathing beach. People do go and sit and
No,
Go-
I think what you meant is it's not guarded beach, but yeah, right.
Oh, it's
100%
not,
right.
there's not,
Right,
yeah, there's
right.
no
We understand.
lifeguard, right,
Sure.
okay. Okay, so, well, hello, everyone. We are the Bayview Pines Civic and Taxpayers Association. We were established in 1960 by the Bayview Pines community, and we're a small hamlet consisting of about 300 homes bordered on the north and east by Reeves Bay, Peconic Bay, to the south by 24 Flanders, and by the west by another community called Water's Edge, which also sits directly on the bay. We hold quarterly meetings and maintain an active Facebook page. We are thankful to the Highway Department, Highway Superintendent and staff for responding to our needs and the flooding issues at the end of Long Neck Boulevard. We, of course, support the funding proposal to alleviate the flooding which gathers at the end of Long Neck Boulevard after heavy rain or extreme high tide. However, we have many questions and would like to see a rendering, first time we saw it, or schematic of the project in its finished state. Also, we have a question I can't get it out. We have a question, will it alleviate some of the flooding, or will it only drain and clean the runoff going back into the bay after a flood event? We are asking to be included in the discussions regarding this major construction project and need to know more about the elevated platform, the staircase, and whether access for people with disabilities will be available. We are concerned with how this will look, as nothing was presented to us for community input. More importantly, we want to know how and where the beach grass will be incorporated and why it is necessary. There is no beach grass in that area, and now planting and allowing it to grow and spread freely could jeopardize our beach and beach access. Additionally, it's not clear if this funding will also address the road dip on Pine Avenue, which we were told the Highway Department was also going to correct, or is this another pending project? In conclusion, these projects must be brought to our attention so that the neighbors are aware of and can contribute to the effectiveness and usefulness of this improvement. We implore the board to make all such improvements, the
30
first brought to the community directly for invaluable input and suggestions. We are your eyes and ears and know the local community best. Utilizing our knowledge can help with the project and foster good neighbor relations. Again, we enthusiastically approve and support this proposal and request that we be updated on the details at our local meeting. And our next one is January 24th at 6:30. It's via Zoom, and it's at the Crowan Community Center. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Would you like to submit your letter into the record?
We can have someone go to that meeting.
That way we can distribute it to them.
Thank you. We'll have someone come to the meeting. We'll talk to them later. All right, Joanne Longmerrow.
I think maybe you might want to address some of the
Yeah, there
questions
was-
that were brought up.
There was a good amount of points made, but I think a couple of the important ones were that we will be providing additional storage for the stormwater runoff at the end of the road to help mitigate some of the. We'll be providing additional storage at the end of the road to help mitigate some of the flooding that occurs from the upland stormwater runoff. It won't resolve every rainfall, but it will certainly help to prevent the ponding that does occur at the end of the road. And the plantings that are proposed to be planted inside of the bioswale will help to treat some of the stormwater runoff and improve the stormwater quality. Can you see this?
Kevin, can you please zoom in on the image?
So this is the end of the road. Here's the beach. This bioswale is this green area here in the middle. There's some stone going around the perimeter that would help to prevent some erosion from both seaward side and the water running off from the road. Sorry. Sure. So this is the bioswale here at the end of the road. It's this green area here. It takes up almost the entire road ending. So all of the water coming down Long Neck Boulevard will pond in the the bioswale, which will be about 12 to 18 inches deep. There'll be stone around the perimeter to help prevent scour and erosion that might occur as a result of, say, wave action or the water coming off of Long Neck. And there'll also be this boardwalk to traverse the swale that will have a railing to prevent anybody from, winding up in the swale.
How much water can it hold?
I don't have the exact volume, but it's about 12 to 18 inches deep, and it's a fairly large square footage. So the goal, though, is to treat the water quality runoff, which is about a 1.5 to 1.6 inch rainfall event.
How does that maintain?
We're,
Does the environment maintain it?
We
or
can
how
go
does
to a
it
meeting.
maintain it?
what?
If there was like,
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, you're not unable to ask questions from the audience. You need to go to the podium so that it can be on the camera and recorded and part of the record.
but those are the main components of it. So.
And/or you can submit your questions to us in writing and we can respond to them at the meeting, at the Crowan
Should I-
Center.
should I
But go
say
ahead.
that?
Yeah.
So what I wanted to know is how much water can it hold, and also, you explained 18 inches, but what happens to the impurities that they're taking out of the water? Where do they go, and how would that maintain? Does the environment maintain it, or is it serviced by an outside source?
It's all 100% natural, so there won't be any real maintenance that's required unless maybe some sort of trash accumulates in there or something like that, and town or the local community would have to clean it out.
Thank you.
All right, I have another card for Joanne Long Merrill.
Yeah, I was outside.
Well, step right up and introduce yourself for the
Hi.
record, please.
Yes, my name is Joanne Long Merrill.
Just fix the mic so that the.
Got it. Joanne Long Merrill, 42 Oaks Avenue in Flanders, Southampton. Yes, we are exceedingly pleased that Southampton Town has listened to us repeatedly. I'm a former past president of the Bayview Pines Civic Association, representing almost 400 homes in the community. And this has been an ongoing problem for us. And following me, Lorraine, who may be speaking today, is the current president. So we have been on this for a long time, going back to many council people prior to this council, and prior to Mr. McCardle being the highway department. We also have an issue that the parking is, where is the parking going to be on this? Do we know? Where we're able to be parking along the road as we usually did. I did FOIL for this blueprint. I have not yet received it, so I didn't have this before I could come and speak. But I do want to say, yes, thank you. And is there disability ability to reach the beach? Because we know, according to the Disability Act, we have to have a ramp for people to access the beach. So I just hope we're not in violation of that. We also have, I've been in this area, Southampton, since 1959. My dad built the house, former news director of WRIV. And I also want to add that we do have continued flooding. The vegetation that is supposed to be put into the CPF plan, I would like to know what it is, what kind of plants you plan to put there, because we don't want the grass to take over the beach.
It's beach grass.
Okay?
Beach grass.
It's plain beach grass, okay? So we do want to be able to have that also to the west end of the beach, because that's where the erosion is really coming to its fruition. We're losing Fantasy Avenue. If you don't know, Fantasy Avenue used to be a full street. Now it's a path due to the erosion that's going on in that area. Because of that, we have homeowners on Pine and Oaks Avenue. And for your deliberation, I just want to hand these over to you. I had given a copy of these to Tommy John, but I believe he's upstate already. So.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good
yeah,
coach.
yeah. Oh, yeah, hi, Cindy.
Orientation is up there.
Okay, those are the flooding pictures I took recently, just at a high tide, not even a full moon of Oaks Avenue. All right, we have Goose Creek. Now, I did speak to Mr. Parsons. I asked him to be here today. I don't see him in the audience, but he's our trustee in this area. So we're asking that we also have the spoils from what's going on in the Royal Avenue Creek, that the town was very generously supplying the funding for the Royal Avenue Creek to have that dredged. We're asking for those spoils to be put on our beach, which is the West End, as I spoke to you earlier about that having the erosion. That is detrimental to the homes on Pine Avenue. Also, what's detrimental is Goose Creek Island. Goose Creek is right off Pine and Oaks Avenue. We need to build Goose Creek up. I know it's a Band-Aid. That's what Mr. Parsons called it, and that's what Tommy John called it. But we are getting flooding, as you see here, that is just on a regular basis. So we need help, we need funding, we need our representatives to represent us. So thank you again for the beginning of the funding. I hope it just doesn't end there.
What's the date of that meeting in January?
In January,
The Crowan Center?
the 24th.
Okay. Yeah, we'll try to have somebody there. Maybe Matt could be there, someone from Highway.
It would be nice if we
council
had a
person.
biannual meeting with our representatives that could come down twice a year. It can come in January, and it could come again in before or during June, so that we have the summer people coming back so they can have their issues also aired with the town. As we all know, we now have the opportunity to have those people who live in the city register out here to vote. So I want you to know that you have over 400 votes in that, of homes in that area. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak at this second public hearing?
Yeah, I have one person on Zoom.
I can't think of her name. Hello? Okay, you're with us. Oh, no. Hi, so you're on with us. Can you hear us?
Adrian, you're on Zoom.
Yes, yes, can you hear me?
No, not really.
Hold on. Kevin, we don't hear the Zoom.
Well, I think it's
It's probably her.
No, it's going through the other room.
I thought it sounded like she was next to us.
Yes.
Too late.
Try again?
Try again, Adrian.
Hi,
There we go.
yes,
Yes.
hi, Adrian Woodduck, 12 Dale Avenue, just a couple of doors away from Long Neck Boulevard. That beach is adored by many. I use it a great deal, and the idea of there being stairs to get to the beach is very worrisome. I would like to see, because I can't really see the drawing that's being discussed. And I would like to know more scientifically how a bioswale is going to address sometimes the amount of water and sand brought up onto Long Neck Boulevard. I think the sand alone would fill the bioswale of that 18 inches by the width of the road. I have some landscape experience, and I'm just not convinced that, that's going to make a significant dent in the problem. And as I said, the beach is used by the neighborhood, and if we can't access it without going up and down stairs, I'm not disabled, but it's not easy to climb up and down stairs when you're carrying, your cooler and your umbrella and all that other stuff. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Jackie, is there a reason why stairs were selected for this plan, and is there something that can be redrawn to be more accommodating?
Yeah, I think based upon the public comments, we can definitely readdress. I mean, I was working with the highway. I wasn't really reviewing this in detail, but we did look at other options as well. But we're concerned with some of the sand coming and migrating up the beach from tidal impacts and from the wind. So that's why the elevation was regraded at the end, to basically have it a little higher so that the tidal impacts will not be bringing tidal flow up, as well as that sand that comes up in that area. But I think we can reevaluate the access to the beach. In looking at it just now, too, there might be a possibility. This is just an idea. We'd have to evaluate it further. But let me turn the
Please.
in around. But again, just an idea that I'm considering is in this location. In this location, just to the east, there might be able to be like a little pedestrian walkway along the sand, because there's not regrading being done in that area, and then essentially additionally have that stairway and boardwalk over the improvements that would give a more central access. But that way, that would be kind of a more at-grade, mellow, walking pathway. So again, just an idea in looking at the design right now. But the majority of this is really to accommodate stormwater runoff and reduce the tidal impact and flooding. The bioswale will naturally treat and filter the stormwater runoff before going into the bay. So that is the main objective of the CPF water quality funding, is to treat that stormwater and capture it. Obviously, this is a complex situation. There also will be an area where the tidal inflow is allowed to basically enter and exit. But we're hoping that will be a reduced impact based upon the grading. And right now, obviously, it takes over the majority of the road, causes flooding and access issues with residents. So I think we're willing to adjust the plan and look at it. But very good comments, and we'll take them into consideration.
Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome.
Well,
There's going to be a community meeting in January,
yeah, January 24th.
so they're not
we'll-
going to decide
we'll
on
get
anything till after that community meeting.
So I will move to hold this public hearing open because there could be some changes forthcoming.
So I do have a resolution prepared if you wanted to allocate the funding. The funding allocation here would not determine the design. So as long as we're aware of the design and it still meets the water quality objectives, you could still proceed with the funding award for this year, because we only have one meeting left. And the community engagement, I support that, and I think it would be very important to discuss this with them. But essentially, if you want to utilize 2024 water quality funding for this,
And potentially have to add on to it next year if we make changes.
correct.
So-
Correct. So I would recommend that we allocate the funding and award, but then as long as we're aware of the design changes and it still meets the water quality objectives, then we can incorporate community comments into a more recent plan. But essentially still, it would be important to get this funding allocated this year so that it doesn't come out of the 2025 water quality funding.
That makes good sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, well, we could hold it over to the last meeting in January.
There was a question in the audience. There was a man who asked.
We're gonna wait.
So let me just check the date.
We're gonna wait, and he's gonna address it at the
Well,
24th meeting.
I believe if you don't close the
If
public
we don't
hearing,
close
We wouldn't be able to
hearing,
do the
we can't-
we
resolution,
wouldn't be
so
able
we'll
to
close
fund
all
it.
right, so.
Don't you have to close the hearing?
Yeah, that's what we were
Make a
just saying. So even though we'll likely take it up again, all right, I'll move to close the public hearing. So that
Second.
we're able to award the funding. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the third public hearing?
Public hearing number 3 on the acquisition of 59 Montauk Highway in the hamlet of West Hampton, and then the CPF management stewardship plan to include the property.
And I did just get a text that they're having trouble hearing in the overflow room, so
Okay.
please step a little bit forward. Thanks.
Good afternoon again, Madam Supervisor and Town Council members. Jacqueline Fenlon here, CPF Director for the Town of Southampton. This is a consideration of an acquisition in fee title at 59 Montauk Highway in the hamlet of West Hampton. This is owned by Casa Basso Incorporated, where everyone is aware, most are aware that there's the existing restaurant at Casa Basso. This is a 1.5 acre parcel of land in the hamlet of West Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Note Number 900-356-2-4.4. Casa Basso Incorporated, the owners, purported owners, have expressed an interest in selling the property to the Town of Southampton for $4 million. This is a site that is of historic significance. This is the location of the Casa Basso Castle, which was built in the form of a medieval structure located at 59 Montauk Highway. It was designed and constructed as a pottery studio by ceramicist and sculptor, painter, inventor, and manufacturer Theophilus A. Brower Jr., and he was with us from 1864 to 1932. And in 1902, this was also known as the Pinewood Park. So this castle is also a statuary garden area where it was, at that time, it was open to the public. So this is a very interesting property that we're considering under 3 designations. So this would be under historic preservation, as well as Village Hamlet Green, because our intent is to create a small passive park, give people access to the location, restore the existing castle, and then also provide water access and preserve and allow to restore the wetlands area along the creek's edge.
Just in case people didn't hear you, the castle's gonna remain.
The castle will remain, and as many of the statues and sculptures will remain as well. We've done an inventory of them, so we'll have to consider, where they're located and if they're salvageable at this point. But the castle is proposed to be retained and restored.
Something I do want to clarify is that there were some letters of support that came in referencing to a park. This would be a passive park with waterfront access, particularly maybe, like a kayak launch and some picnic tables. We're not planning ball fields or playgrounds, or it's strictly a passive use.
Pretty
At
much
this-
open space,
yeah.
right, with access to the
At
water?
this time, it would be a small parking area. We'll redefine kind of the configuration, help to remove some of the existing infrastructure, but the intent is to have a small passive park to allow people to get down to the water, but also then, be able to retain the existing castle and sculptures on site.
And we're still exploring options for what we'll do with that castle.
Yes.
Maybe there's some input today that we'll get.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Jackie. The first speaker is Barbara Metcalf.
Hi, I'm Barbara Metcalf. I'm just going to read this off, and maybe I can email it to submit for the meeting. My name is Barbara Metcalf. I'm the next door neighbor in the original Renee Mondini house adjoining Casa Basso. I'm very fortunate to be right on Beaver Dam Creek, as I'm also a wildlife photographer. While I support Southampton Town's decision to preserve the castle and its statuary, I'm very concerned about the park plans. This very narrow end of Beaver Dam Creek is a highly sensitive estuary for herons, egrets, glossy ibis, kingfishers, swans, and other shorebirds. In the last few years, a pair of bald eagles has frequented this end of the creek to fish. I've emailed some photos, some of them taken this past weekend, and I have a lot more on my Facebook page if anybody wants to go and look at them. The public already has access to Beaver Dam Creek from the Larson Marina and the small park just south of that, both purchased by Southampton Town in the last few years. Several boat slips there have remained empty. There's also already a kayak launch at the end of Town Dock, at the end of Baycrest Avenue, right down the creek from the castle. The land behind the restaurant and the castle is narrow, sloping steeply down to the Phragmite and reeds. There isn't any bulkheading or docks on the castle side. That's why these birds are attracted to nesting in this private, quiet setting. Will there be, or has there been, an environmental impact study done to show how this small end of the creek will be preserved and protected? Is the DEC involved in this project? Giving the castle historical landmark status preserves the legacy of its imaginative creator, Theophilus Brower, whose statuary delighted so many for over 100 years. I'm just very concerned that constructing unnecessary public water access, such as boat slips or a kayak launch, into the delicate estuary here will threaten the protection of these magnificent birds. Installing a few park benches for bird watchers and their families would be much less expensive and invasive. Just the demolition of the restaurant will have a negative impact. Hopefully that will be a fall and winter project. Once the estuary is diminished, there's not a way to reverse it. Thank you for your consideration.
Those are good comments. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you. And I will email this.
Okay. Oh, next is Gail Lombardi.
Hi, good afternoon. And if everyone could speak up and not murmur, because downstairs there's a whole room of people on a TV that we can't hear, especially at this mic. And I know I'm probably one of those people because my voice doesn't carry.
Downstairs in the...
Downstairs, we're only auditorium. There's
Oh,
like
wow.
50 people down there, and there's overflow in here, and I'm assuming it's for, this isn't my 3 minutes. I'm assuming this is a public announcement. I'm assuming that this is for the public hearing 5.
Kevin, can you just look into the sound?
They are.
Okay.
But it's this mic, and with all due respect, Jim, it's you.
Said
You know,
it.
it's not you, Michael. So
Said
if
a
you
word.
can, speak up, speak into the mic, speak clearly. Right, Bill, I speak too fast. I'll defer to the neighbors, as far as the Casa Bassa, but I just wanted to make some quick points. I personally, remember that place 30, 40 years ago as a restaurant. I'm not a newcomer to Hampton Bays. I'm not a newcomer to the Hamptons, and I loved it. However, it seems that the town has turned into where distressed historic properties come to die. I'll give you the example, the Hampton Bays Chamber of Commerce, you let die and knock down. And, this is what, $3-4 million? I would really like to see, there's a lot of money invested in the properties, a lot of money invested to bring them up to, fix them, because most of them are distressed, and then maintain them. It's a lot of money. And so, I urge the town to take serious consideration that it's not just, same thing, you hire an employee for $100,000, it's actually $1 million with benefits. It's the same thing when you buy these properties. You can't just say, oh, it's $4 million. No, it's $8 million, with the life of the property. And the other thing, and Tommy John's not here, because I would address this to Tommy John, and I don't like talking about people behind their back. I do not appreciate the last meeting, where you will make it seem, and mostly Tommy John, that you're doing us a favor by taking money out of the CPF funds for pilots. Hampton Bays especially is a needy community. We need that subsidy in our taxes. You could spend $2.9 million on a building in Hampton Bays you don't know what to do with, $4 million on this property. Please do not cut the CPF short and providing pilots when you buy these properties. Think long term. Think about all of us, and I'll defer to that woman who seems to really know about the property, and I know nothing about it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I don't remember what that was about, but we're not going to cut the pilot payments. I don't have any intention to do that. Madam Clerk, could you please read the notice for the fourth public hearing?
You need to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you have anybody else?
Have a
Okay,
second?
getting ahead of
Any other
ourselves.
comments?
Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom for the third public hearing? Okay.
Legend lives on. He's fired up.
Hi, we can see you. Can you hear us?
Hi, I'm Chris Walters. I live at 21 Baycrest Avenue in West Hampton. And I thought Barbara Metcalf's comments were very salient to this purchase. Because the water access, I mean, it's a great property, no doubt. We're right across or diagonally across on Beaver Dam Creek. We abut the water.
Could you speak up a little, please? We're having trouble hearing you.
Oh, Kevin, can you just make sure the Zoom volume on the TV is a little louder for the people in the audience? Thank you. If there's anything that we need to do to control the volume on this side, that would be helpful.
Okay, proceed,
Thank
please.
you. Sorry, Chris.
No problem. So as I was saying, I live at 21 Baycrest Avenue in West Hampton, right across Beaver Dam Creek, or diagonally across from Casa Basso. I think Barbara Metcalf's comments are important about giving water access on a 1.5 acre property. I mean, our property is 1.25 acres, and we have 4 foot of access to a dock. There's limited docks up there because the water is shallow. My wife loves going down onto our dock to watch the herons and beautiful birds that are down there. And there is access right down the street, you know, half a mile down or a mile down on Baycrest Avenue, where there's kayaks already parked or, you know, stored right there at the boat launch at the end. So I'm not quite sure why you would consider accessing this very, you know, shallow end of Beaver Dam Creek to allow water access on a 1.5 acre property. It's quite confusing to me. So anyway, I just wanted to, again, reiterate that it is a very serene area, and to create a public access when there's already one, you know, 5 minutes down the road doesn't make much sense.
Thank you. Appreciate those comments. All right. Well, if there's no one else on Zoom, then I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Now, Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the fourth public hearing?
Certainly. Public hearing number 4, to accept a deed of dedication for open space in connection with the planned residential cluster plan known as Tuckahoe Orchard, Tuckahoe.
Good afternoon, Supervisor, board members. For your consideration, as recommended by the Planning Board, is the acceptance of an open space parcel totaling 40,468 square feet, which has been the subject of a subdivision known as Tuckahoe Orchard. This 2-lot planned residential development represents a cluster plan, setting aside 25% open space, or 40,468 square feet, of a 2.786 acre site in an R40 zoning district. The property is within a New York State archaeological sensitive area and located within the hamlet of Tuckahoe, and is further identified on Suffolk County tax map as 900-1292-11.2. And there's a map over here, you can see it. The green is what the open space parcel is. As a result of the New York State archaeologically sensitive designation, there was a Phase 1 archaeological report prepared in May of 23, and there were no artifacts found, thus there's no other investigation needed. The final application consists of 2 buildable lots with the set aside of this 25% as open space adjacent to town-owned space, which is in the yellow, and that to the east, and thus creating a larger contiguous block of preserved land. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, I would recommend closing at the end of this meeting, and we'll put a resolution of adoption on for the next meeting.
Well, thank you, Christine. There's no cards on this, but Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom that would like to be heard? Okay, well, does anyone on the board have any questions? No?
Nope.
Okay. Then we'll take your recommendation. I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk, could you please read the notice for the 5th public hearing?
Public hearing number 5, to consider enacting Town Code Article 32 as it relates to the amortization of non-conforming sand mines that meet certain criteria within the town of Southampton.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. For the record, Deputy Town Attorney Kathleen Murray. Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor, members of the Town Council. As discussed at your October 31st work session, before you is a local law addressing the amortization of pre-existing non-conforming sand mines within the town. By way of background, amortization laws are land use tools used in order to sunset, so to speak, non-conforming uses. As you know, one of the purposes of the zoning code is to promote the health, safety, and welfare of your residents, and to gradually eliminate non-conforming uses, a specific finding under Town Code Section 330-3L. And that's because non-conforming uses are generally not in conformity with land use regulations nor with your comprehensive plan. Sometimes you'll see non-conforming uses cease because it is economically unsustainable, it is abandoned, or its attendant buildings and structures become dilapidated. And sometimes you'll see non-conforming uses remain and actually become more valuable because of their very non-conformity. Amortization is a land use tool used for the removal of non-conforming uses after the value of a non-conforming use has been recovered or amortized over a period of time. Amortization laws have been recognized as appropriate as long as the period upon which to amortize their use is sufficient and reasonable. That duration must be evaluated by comparing the burden to the property owner with the burden to the public of allowing the use to continue. So courts will generally protect private investment up to the point where it is then outweighed by the public benefit. So in practice, the process of amortization includes determining the useful remaining economic life of the non-conforming use and then prohibiting the contamination of that use after its useful life, of that use after its useful life has been exhausted or amortized. Here, of course, the proposed local law before you addresses pre-existing non-conforming sand mines within the town. As you know, the sole source of drinking water for the town is its underground aquifers, and you have taken measures to protect this drinking water supply for your residents. In addition, the state legislature has identified what's known as special groundwater protection areas, also to protect the sole source aquifers. Under the premise that the operation of an intensive use in a residential zoning district and a special groundwater protection area jeopardizes the quality of the town's drinking water supply, this local law proposes to amortize that non-conforming sand mine use. In terms of the local law, a residential zoning district includes a parcel located within the CR 200, CR 120, CR 80, R120, and R80 zoning districts. For those parcels, the right to operate a non-conforming sand mine, which is also located in a special groundwater protection area, shall terminate 1 year from the effective date of this local law, unless the owner applies to the Zoning Board of Appeals to contest that termination date and request an additional period of time to a date the ZBA finds would provide a reasonable amortization period. The ZBA would then schedule a public hearing to consider the applicant's request. The ZBA has a list of factors articulated within the law to consider when making that determination of a termination date, including but not limited to the value of the land, the value of the buildings, the effect of the operation of the sand mine on an area's property values, the character of the neighborhood, and the environmental effect the sand mine has on the neighborhood. As listed in the local law, presumptively reasonable termination dates shall be considered by the ZBA. That is to say, if a sand mine has excavated 90% or more of the volume of sand permitted under a current valid DEC permit, then they are allowed 1 year from the effective date of the local law to continue operating. If a sand mine has excavated between 75% to 90% or more, withdrawn to 90% of the volume of sand permitted under a current DEC valid permit, they are allowed an additional 5 years. Withdrawn, 3 years, I apologize. 75% to 90% is 3 years. If a sand mine has excavated between 50% to 75% of the volume of sand permitted under that current valid DEC permit, then they are allowed an additional 5 years. And if a sand mine has excavated less than 50% of the volume of sand permitted, they would get an additional 7 years to operate, as proposed in this local law. There are a couple of notes I want to address. At the October 31st work session, I indicated that the town did not receive responses to the town's monitoring requests from the sand mines. I want to correct the record. I understand now that we did receive responses, and I apologize to this board for that misstatement. I did not intend to mislead neither you or the public. Having said that, we did receive a referral back from the Suffolk County Planning Commission deeming this a matter for local determination. We are still awaiting the Town Planning Board's referral response. And finally, in terms of SECRA, I did speak with Janice Scher, your Town Planning and Development Administrator, who has determined that this would be a Type 1 action. And so while there is not one on today, you can expect to see a resolution on the next town board meeting coordinating that SECRA process. You can look for that on the December 19th town board meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a good summary. And I would like to say before we get started that yes, there has been some misinformation circulated, and we specifically, the proposal does not close all the mines in Southampton in 1 year. And as Deputy Town Attorney Kathleen Murray just pointed out in her summary, there's presumptive reasonable extensions that are available depending on the amount of sand left to be mined. I do have a letter from Assemblyman Thiel and some remarks from County Executive Ed Romaine, but I'll read those into the record afterwards. I don't, since they're not present. And I also, there's, according to the records from the DEC, there's presently 7 sand and gravel mines in the town for which the DEC has issued permits. So if there's an owner or a legal representative for any of those 7 companies here, I'd be happy to take you out of order. That's East Coast Mines and Materials, Hampton Sand Corp., Huntington Ready Mix, Creek Concrete, Sagaponic Sand and Gravel, Sandland Corp., West Hampton Mining Aggregate, and West Hampton Property Associates. So if any of the owners are here, you want to raise your hand, I'd be happy to, or legal representatives.
I'd like to actually, before we start with public comment, I have a statement I'd like to make.
Okay, just, sure, go
Do
ahead.
you mind if I? So I have just a statement I'd like to read because I'm taking my turn to start this because I think everyone deserves to know what they are supporting, fighting, or in the case of town staff, defending. And it can't be done from the podium in 3 minutes. I will start by thanking our legal department, as well as code enforcement and our land management staff. You all tried to steer this in the right direction in accordance with the law. Unfortunately, your guidance on how to handle this was taking too long, as this legislation apparently had a holiday deadline. I can tell you the following with great confidence due to what was uncovered by an outside FOIL request. That request uncovered emails containing privileged information being forwarded to the supervisor's husband. I was alerted because some of my correspondence with our legal department was being forwarded as well. After requesting a copy of town emails that were forwarded to the supervisor's husband, I received this. The bulk of this is every email received regarding the legislation we are discussing today. When I say every email, I mean every email. Every legal opinion, every amendment to the legislation, every correspondence from code enforcement, the Suffolk County Water Authority, everything. It became very clear to me prior to receipt of these emails at our work session on October 31st that the sponsor of this legislation did not write this legislation. He simply put his name on it. This legislation specifically states that the town's drinking water is especially in jeopardy when mining sites are used for waste processing disposal, an accessory use that the DEC is moving to prohibit. Yet at the work session, Councilman Pell stated that he knew some of the mine owners who would like to give up their right to mine in order to process vegetative waste. Why would you support an alternative use that is in clear contradiction of your own legislative intent, one that has been shown to impact groundwater quality? When I asked why the town hadn't collected data on the drinking water, the supervisor stated, "We're not basing this on the water. It's about the use." For those of you here to rightfully advocate to ensure the safety of our aquifer, the sponsor and the supervisor have both stated very clearly that this isn't about the drinking water. You should know that the town passed legislation in 2021 to require mines to submit a groundwater monitoring plan for review and approval. Once that plan was approved by the town board, sampling would commence. The mine owners submitted their plans at a considerable expense to themselves, but the town never followed through on reviewing or approving those plans. As for this legislation, I will give you a brief overview of how it was drafted, which is backed up by now publicly available documents due to the fact that they were forwarded to the supervisor's husband. Our town planning and development administrator was sent a proposed local law to amateurize sand mines for her review and comment. That draft included documented groundwater contamination as a condition of amateurization. She questioned how that would be documented. She cited Town Code 330-119, which was passed to amateurize nightclubs, and the detailed study that preceded that law. A study which provided baseline data and an inventory of all known clubs in the town. This detailed, lengthy email was forwarded to the supervisor's husband within 4 minutes of her sending it to the councilman. Understanding that the councilman wanted to proceed with legislation without conducting a costly, time-consuming study, town staff proceeded to attempt to gather data to form a legal, rational basis to carry out the wishes of the councilman, but that wasn't happening quickly enough. On October 28th, Assemblyman Thiel sent an email to Councilman Pell and Supervisor Moore as a follow-up to a meeting that the three of them had had. Assemblyman Thiel provided them with an updated draft of this legislation, which removed groundwater contamination as a condition of amateurization and modified the amateurization periods. The Assemblyman stated, "I used the number of years rather than a calendar date. I fear this will go into 2025. This will keep us from having to continually amend if there are additional delays in enactment." The Assemblyman's draft of the legislation was put on for a work session 3 days later. Our town planning and development administrator, who is on record stating the proper procedure for amateurization, was not included in that work session. When the press later asked which mines would even be affected by the proposed legislation, as that important fact was not disclosed at the work session, they were told that the town was basically still trying to figure that out. In the days preceding and following the work session, code enforcement was sent out to mine sites to document infractions and issue notice of violations. The supervisor's husband was forwarded all of those reports, pictures, and notices. There are ways to go about enacting legislation. This is not it. I shouldn't have had to inform the mine owners, the Trades Advisory Committee, and that it's mind-boggling. I'm sorry. The town has had specialized outside counsel dedicated to sand mine matters since 2019. If you check my voting record, you will see that I have supported funding for that council every time it was voted on. Not only were they not involved in drafting this legislation, their advice was completely dismissed. In the supervisor's own words, the industry has had 40 years to mine since becoming non-conforming uses, and it's time for them to wrap it up. She said that if they only mined 50% of the sand, they can have another 7 years to finish. Can you manage the impacts? Can you think about the impacts to our town if 40 years of mining is condensed to a 7-year time frame? I hope that the environmental experts that are here today can agree that this is a type 1 action. I'm glad that our town planning and development administrator has already stated that. Had this not become such a big thing and had you all not been here and gotten involved, I don't think that we would be having that discussion. We have had the ability to monitor the groundwater at a 50-acre mine the same way we do on the adjacent 280-acre golf course. Why aren't we doing so? I guess there's no need to because it's not about the water. I'm upset because not only were the mine owners not included in this discussion, the building trades that will be greatly impacted were not included either. After our work session, I forwarded the proposed legislation to the mine owners, to the Trades Advisory Committee, to the Southampton Business Alliance, and I sought clarification from the DEC. Had I not, most of the people who are most impacted by this legislation would not have even known about it. That's not how you legislate. I am also left to question, as should you, why the supervisor's husband was so heavily involved in this matter, as none of you voted to elect him to represent you. And I am angry that my privilege and the privilege of my colleagues was so carelessly violated. As he is not here today, I would like to mention that Councilman Schiavone was not a party to any of the emails that were forwarded to the supervisor's husband. And on that note, I look forward to hearing from every single one of you on how this will impact this town, your livelihoods, and the very things that we rely on, such as our homes and our IA systems and everything else down the line. So on that note, I turn it over to you.
I think, that you're under the mistaken impression that we're trying to ram something through here at the end of the year, which is not the case at all. We're certainly aware that a seeker environmental review has to be done. This is just the initial public hearing to get feedback. The law, the proposed legislation is of course subject to revisions. So,
and I hope when that environmental review is completed, I hope that if it shows that there is a severe impact to the town, that maybe we look the other way on this.
You hope it shows that? We'll see what it shows.
Okay, we'll see what it shows.
Please come to the podium.
Run it by your husband.
I didn't send anything to my husband, but
you're on all of it, so
no, I'm not.
Most of it.
No, I
Would you
not.
like copies?
Yeah, I would like to.
I will give you the copies that you are CC'd on with your husband.
Another council person happens to be friends with my husband, who's a lawyer, and he likes to get his input as well. There's nothing wrong with that.
Forwarded to you and your husband.
Well, I don't recall.
I'll give you copies.
Thank you. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor, members of the board. My name is Kevin Brown. I'm an attorney with Vogel & Brown, Syracuse, New York. We represent mining companies, people that provide your infrastructure supplies, construction materials throughout New York State. Today I'm here on behalf of Hunting Ready Mix Concrete, and I have an extensive statement which I tried to forward by email. I hope it didn't get in the wrong loop. I will submit this.
I'll take them all for you. Oh, yes. Whatever you're passing. Thank you.
And what I'd like to do is just go over the amortization law and the idea of non-conforming use. Yes, it's true that mines have been a non-conforming use all through Long Island since the 1980s, various years in the 1980s. But non-conforming use isn't just to eliminate a use, it's to prevent the proliferation of uses. Now, when that happens with the mine site, there's still reserves. So in the 1980s, when the towns throughout Long Island elected to make mines non-conforming, there was no stress on the construction industry. There was no stress on town budgets. There was plenty of sand and gravel. This happens throughout municipalities in New York State that happen to be blessed with reserves based on depositional history from the glaciers. That's what this is. Long Island is a sandbar from the glaciers that a lot of it happens to be very high quality material that will meet DOT specifications for construction. You can't go to a pit, borrow a pit, and put material into a construction project. It has to meet specifications. I noted that the first two events that two items today, they were construction projects. They were infrastructure projects. Water main extension and a stormwater prevention project, pollution prevention project. Everything you do in this town requires material. Every project. So the idea that, well, it's not conforming, it's been not conforming for 40 years, it should be gone, that's not true. You still have to balance the needs for material, local needs for material, regional needs for material, and the availability. Quality sand that can be used for this purpose, for construction purpose, is not available everywhere. Quality stone isn't even available everywhere. If you follow a DOT line of the thruway, that pretty much matches up where the dolomite and Lockport formations are coming down, and then you have the granite and the trap rock and the Hudson Valley, and then here, a lot of high quality sand, Western New York, some large glacial deposits, they're not everywhere. And many towns in Western New York make the use non-conforming. Once they start running out of material and contractors can't get material, the building department can't get material, the roads guys can't get material, they open it back up. So the idea we just have to close down the mines, it's not a good idea. In my letter, which I sent by email, I went through the history of how many mines were on Long Island over the years. It was 73. It was 73 in the early 2000s, and it has diminished and diminished. With this act, there's 21, that's 7, it'll be 14. And other towns, I'm sure, will follow suit, because this is the issue du jour down on the island. Let's close all the mines. That's bad idea from a public policy perspective. Now, the premise of this law is that sand and gravel mining presents a threat to groundwater. There is no credible scientific study that supports that allegation. None. Everybody's entitled to their opinions. Everybody's not entitled to the facts. That's an old saw, but that's the fact.
30 seconds.
Understanding people's concerns, mine operators, Huntington Ready Mix is involved in a voluntary program. They're a small operation. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars to provide that testing for contaminants that have nothing to do with us. Nothing. We have the data. We will provide the data. You have the data. All you have to do is go on the website. The site's been clean. There's never been anything but manganese and iron, which happens to be naturally occurring. It shows up in the water. Every now and then something passes through. It always starts upgrading. The salt from Sunrise Highway will show up as sodium chlorides in one of the upgrading wells and then go through the site. The mine has nothing to do with it. This company, when they went into the water table, they invested millions of dollars to buy an electric dredge and to electrify their conveyors so they would not have any diesel-powered equipment near the water. That's the one concern that DEC has identified over 80 years, since the 1980s, reviewing sand and gravel mining. The only threat is from spills from petroleum-powered equipment. They've done all that, invested it, and now we're going to be shut down in a year? It's not right.
That's not, please, that's not what the legislation is, but thank you for giving us the summary in writing so we can all review that.
Okay,
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, I do want to say, even though 3 minutes, it's not a long time, but that is the rule, and we have so many cards and people that would like to speak, so let's be mindful of that restriction so everybody can have a turn. So the first speaker is Chris Coy, and after that is Bob DeLuca. Oh, yeah, I don't think anyone else raised their hand. There are no other sand mine owners or council here? If you'd like to go first, glad to take you out of order. Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Coy. I'm an architect in Bridgehampton. I've been practicing out here on the East End for 31 years. I have a very brief statement. The sensible legislation being proposed by Councilman Bill Pell is the final step in a process started more than half a century ago when the town adopted its master plan, classifying sand mining as a non-conforming use. There are only a few mines remaining. I think hydrologist Ron Paulson, author of the Suffolk County Health Department report on sand mining contamination, makes a fair point when he says, quote, "It's not that mining doesn't have a place, it's where and how you do it," end quote. The sand on the East End acts as a filter over our precious salt source aquifer. This is not the place to continue removing sand from that filter. The economy of the East End depends on construction and real estate, the valuation of which is upheld by this area's pristine environment and natural beauty. If we kill that golden goose by spoiling the only source of clean water we have, our local economy and the health of our community will be headed for collapse. Maintaining the health of our community and the viability of our economy is more important than the cost of construction sand. Thank you, Councilman Pell.
Thank you. Bob DeLuca is next, and then after him, George Kadzin.
Okay.
Okay. Then after, Ron Paulson will be up next.
Okay, try to give you a 3-minute version.
Not easy.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Moore, Town Board members. My name is Bob DeLuca, and I've served as the president of Group for the East End since 1992. I'm here to speak in support of the amortization and non-conforming sand mine legislation, which is actually a public position that we have held since 1984. For the record, Group for the East End is a professional environmental organization founded in Bridgehampton in 1972. Our work is supported by several thousand member households across the region, with the majority of our membership coming from Southampton Town. The measure before you today reflects a central tenet of zoning that is both timely and important because every town in New York is obligated by law to adopt and enforce local zoning that's in compliance with its comprehensive plan. Moreover, it's a central tenet of zoning that non-conforming uses come into conformity over a reasonable period of time. In the case of non-conforming sand mines, town zoning has prohibited mining in residential zones for some odd 50 years or so. And those uses obviously persist, and in some cases, the uses have had a significant history of engaging in additional industrial operations and practices that have served to increase the scale of nonconformity by handling and processing an array of vegetative and construction waste. And the current mine reports online to this day show that that's going on. Such practices, by their very nature, increase the risk of groundwater contamination in direct conflict with the long-stated goals of the town's comprehensive plan. And such contamination has been documented by the Suffolk County Health Department in Southampton Town. It's also important to point out that even beyond the town, concern about this issue shows up as long ago as 1992 when the Long Island Regional Planning Board did the Suffolk Special Groundwater Protection Areas Study, and that study actually mentions the area that we're talking about today and concludes that DEC and the two South Fork towns, so the region that goes all the way over to East Hampton, the groundwater region, should require the filling and regrading of mines, a recommendation consistent with the plan's overall efforts to best protect the future of the town's vulnerable groundwater resources. The same plan also advocates for an opportunity to rehabilitate and reuse old sand mines primarily for residential or recreational use, and you see that in other hamlet studies that were done. In fact, even the East Quogue study talks about that conversion to use over time. Nearly 3 decades later, the Suffolk County Department of Health and the Suffolk County Special Grand Jury investigation both identified site-specific contamination associated with non-conforming mines and their co-located industrial processing facilities as a substantial risk to the environment, and both called for additional regulatory action to address the problem. As a decade of court cases has made clear, that change is not coming from the DEC, which has largely failed to enforce the law, cut the town out of the decision-making process, made up its own rules, rarely inspected, and frequently ignored the very industrial operations that they are charged with regulating, and there's ample evidence of this. With the latest decision from the New York State Court of Appeals exposing such failures in the state's regulatory framework, the courts have ruled the law is clear, the cavalry is not coming in the form of the DEC, and so the responsibility must fall to the town to address this long-standing conflict between the goals of the comprehensive plan and the decades of non-conforming actions that have occurred on the ground. Thank you very much for your time, and I wish you well in your consideration of this bill.
Thank you. Would you want to submit your comments? Or
Yeah, I can submit those.
Please. All right, Ron Paulson and then Andrea Klausner.
Good afternoon, Supervisor and board members. I'm here to, there's a lot that's gone on in this. I had a 30-year career running the groundwater investigative unit in Suffolk County and other places. Done this work throughout the county, throughout the country. And I want to get into who studies no good and who studies good and all that crap. I've had enough of that for 30 years, and I'm retired from that. So I'm here to speak plainly about what I see is a really serious problem we have in Southampton in particular for our aquifer system. It's under siege, not just from any one industry. It's under siege from sea level rise. So this small quantity of water we have here is being infringed on. There's forever chemicals, one PFAS. I hope if you don't know about it, read about it. Where 1 part per trillion can cause a problem for you. I live in Hampton Bays. We just lost our public supply wells to PFAS. It's almost impossible to treat. Okay, so you have all that, and that's everywhere. We have 1,4-dioxane. We have glyphosate. We have pesticide. The puddle, the source of water that we can rely on is shrinking. And that's why we had groundwater protection areas, and that's why they should be protected from everything. I can't stress that enough. You can't truck in water or pipe it in. You can truck in any damn building material you want. That's not the issue. The water, a mistake in that deep recharge area north of here is a 200-year mistake. That's the time travel before it goes out. 200 years. It's going to affect your kids, my 2 granddaughters. And we're just sitting here arguing over sand? Come on. We got to start taking what was put in place years ago to have groundwater protection areas, because they had the foresight to say, we got to keep those pristine. You can't treat for half of this.
30 seconds.
So anyhow, thank you for letting me vent.
Thank you.
And I hope, we can find a way through all this.
I do too. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Andy Klausner, and after Jackie Hilly.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
And just state your name for the record, please.
My name is Andrea Klausner, 1800 Deerfield Road, Watermill. I'm here to advocate in favor of the proposed amortization law. The town of Southampton outlawed sand mines back in the early 1970s. Those in existence were grandfathered in as non-conforming zoning uses, with an understanding that they would be phased out over time. Yet here we are over 50 years later, and the remaining sand mines still have not ceased operations. In fact, some have tried to expand their operations. Such was the case with Sandland, whose permits were annulled by the New York State courts for that reason in 2021 and 2023. It is well established that sand mining in residential areas poses a serious threat to our drinking water. I'm not even sure why this is still being debated. The amortization legislation proposed by the town board is a fair solution that balances the environmental concerns with the economic interests of the mine operators. It offers the mine owners the time they need to calibrate their business operations to meet the changing times, as many different kinds of businesses have had to do. I object to opponents of this law categorizing this decision as a binary choice between our economy and our environment. In fact, the health of our local economy depends upon the health of our air and water. I would also like to reference the full-page Monopoly ad that appeared several times in the Southampton press, insinuating that Town Supervisor Moore and Town Councilman Iaselli took campaign money from local resident Robert Rubin to influence the board's decision. As a matter of fact, Cindy McNamara accepted campaign contributions from East Coast mine owner John Tintle and his wife in September of 2021. Does this make Ms. McNamara's opposition to the law suspect? No more so than it does a campaign contribution from Mr. Rubin to Ms. Moore and Mr. Iaselli. To suggest otherwise in the absence of proof is irresponsible and possibly legally actionable. It also debases our public discourse
30 seconds.
and distracts residents from the legitimate issues at hand. This is shameful. It's time for the town board to take the long overdue steps necessary to finally shut down sand mining in our residential neighborhoods and exercise its duty to safeguard public health for us, our children, and our grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Jackie Hilly, and then after Jackie, it's William Clare.
Good afternoon. My name is Jackie Hilly. I live in Sag Harbor for the last 10 years, but I've actually lived on Long Island for more than 70 years, and from Breezy Point all the way out here. I was also the president of Property Owners Association on Fire Island for more than 20 years. So I'm aware of the water, and the one thing I will agree with you, Cindy, is about the water for me. It's not hard for me to remember all the salt marshes that ran all the way from Breezy Point out to Montauk when I was young. I traversed this whole island my whole life, and I had that house in Fire Island for 30 years, so I know what's been done to remediate some of the losses that we've had. But I think we have to really focus on that because we're not just a part of this town, but we're a part of a larger ecosystem here, which includes the aquifer. And I would like to just say for the record, there are more than 3 million people who live in Nassau and Suffolk County, which is larger than between 12 and 14 states in the country. So we're a large population that needs to have fresh water, and preserving our aquifer and all the things that support our aquifer are important. The number one danger for invasive problems with aquifers is the invasion of salt water. And our island is beautiful, but it's very long and narrow, and particularly at the end of the island here, we are in a particularly tough spot because we have the forks. So we're surrounded by salt water, which is encroaching, and we already know that there are large bays and areas of our community that are completely dead. The western end of Long Island Sound, for example, is completely dead. We know that over the course of years, we have lost, when I was growing up in Babylon, every single ounce of the Great South Bay was covered with clam boats, which everybody was raising their college money for, frankly. Everybody who went to my high school would spend the summer on their clam boats. That's gone. We were once covered with oysters all along the coast to protect us. We no longer have those salt marshes, which would have remediated some of the salt water encroaching from the ocean for us, and also would have remediated some of the carbon collection that we need to do. This ecosystem that we have is a very precious one. So the actions of this town board in taking care of our small part of this larger ecosystem is incredibly important. We have to be forward thinking about not only the lives of our grandchildren and our children, but think of all this other services that we are served by that need water. We have hospitals, we have schools, we have fire departments, all of the essential services that we need for healthy and continued enjoyment of this area depend upon our aquifer. So the small part that we can do to protect it, I think, is critical today. Thank you for my time.
Thank you, Jackie. And just for the record, I want to clarify, I didn't say it wasn't about water quality. Of course it is about our sole source aquifer. What I said was that I didn't want to have based the legislation on that and wait and do testing and wait until there's contamination before we take action. All right, next is William Clare and then Tom Fahey. I think he might have left. So after that is Bill Anderson.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bill Clare. I'm a Southampton resident.
been in the construction industry here for a lot of years and since retired. My thoughts are about this is this seems to be gonna go further down the road than just sand pits. And what are you gonna do? Close the non-conforming grocery stores and churches? What are you gonna do? You know? These sand pits, or any of us in our industry, were our grocery stores. And it's a needed thing. And you're not gonna wanna drive west to go get everything, go shopping or whatever, if you start to go down this road. I think it's something you really need to address, and you need to think about it before you do anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Tom Fahey, I think, had to leave, so next is Bill Anderson, and then Louis Grosso.
I'm Bill Anderson.
Okay.
I don't know where Tom Fahey is.
I think he left. I think I saw him leave.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor, members of the board. My name is Bill Anderson. I live at 1716 Middle Road, Calverton. I purchased sand in Southampton town. I have for 49 years. We need sand. I agree with you. Nobody should hurt the groundwater. Nobody. I see just with my own eyes, why are the sprinklers on at every single house, every day? I grow nursery stock. That's how I make my living. I don't water my trees like that. I put them in the good topsoil that God made. And they grow with no water and no sprinkler system. I hear you talk about the economic future of your town. It was based on construction in the houses. Why can't we make smaller houses? Why do we have to make a giant house? Why does the house have to be air conditioned? Why does the house need a swimming pool bigger than a pond? Why does every propane truck in Calverton need to leave Calverton on a cloudy day and come to Southampton because the pool might get cold? And then we get an ice pool, more water. We need to plant more trees. We need to stop cutting trees down. We don't need to worry about the Amazon rainforest. We need to plant trees here. All we do now is the bucket truck comes, cuts all the trees down. Trees make CO2. I think we should help the environment. And we all have a cesspool. Most people here, I don't think, have locust posts under their house. They probably have concrete. I'm going out on a limb here, okay? If you got concrete, you went to the sand mine. What is your driveway composed of? Is it aggregate? Is it blacktop? Is it concrete? All of those things came from a sand pit. Look at all these people here that left work today. They need a job. Where are they gonna work? Who's gonna pay for them? Does the town, are you gonna help re-educate us to get a different job? Does the town have any options that way? If we can't do what we do to make a living, are you going to re-educate us and retool us?
30 seconds.
Is there any plan for that? No?
Well,
Okay. Thank you very much. Please, look at your sprinkler systems. Tell me what day they're off. They're on 7 days a week.
mine
Thank
aren't,
you.
but okay.
We
I
just had
get
a
your
fatal
point.
accident on News 12 a week and a half ago with the water in the road and it froze. You know, we need to look at our own lives. Do we need this much? And the one lady talked about the marshes. I grew up here. The one fellow,
3
Scaloni,
minutes.
I've never met him. I went to school with his older relatives. They used to go to school in Riverhead. You know, we're not that far apart.
Well, thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you
your
for your
comments.
consideration.
All right, Louis Grosso, and after that is Adrian Esposito.
Good afternoon. Louis Grasso from Money to Ready Mix. I believe those who removed mining from the use table, thus making all sand mines a pre-existing non-conforming use, if they had intended one day that all mines would cease to operate in the town, they would have set a sunset date from the start. Deeming mines to have the status of non-conforming use was intended to stop the proliferation of mining within the town, but to preserve those already in existence as a necessary use. I know you view this proposed amortization as letting us realize the economic benefit of our current DEC mining permits, but for those with further economically viable, formidable reserves, this is unacceptable. Not only are you cutting us short, you're doing so to this town and Greater Long Island. We have invested in excess of $15 million on the premise that we would be able to complete our project to the full extent, not just to the current DEC permit, and build upon permits obtaining modifications the way the permitting system has always worked. The town of Southampton, along with all of Long Island, will one day be facing a sand crisis that they don't even know is fast approaching. This law is only going to bring that upon us even faster. Sand is the second most consumed resource next to water. Everyone wants and needs our products in ways they may not even realize. Scarcity will drive the price increase and thus further incentivize illegal mining, not only within the town, but all over the island for use in various markets. The town should be acting as a partner with DEC and mine owners to foster and encourage the full development of legal permitted mine sites. On February 6, 2020, all mine owners on Long Island were invited to attend a meeting at DEC's office in Stony Brook. There, we were instructed to pursue maximizing our permits to the fullest extent, vertically and horizontally, to provide all economically viable reserves to the market. Monitoring wells were also strongly encouraged to any sites that did not have them installed and already conducting a testing program. DEC is almost always the lead agency when it comes to sand mines for a reason. They are not letting us mine owners do anything that would be deemed unacceptable for the environment. The hydrogeological reports and due diligence required just to get to the phase of mining that we are at today are staggering. The situation is very much under control and it simply does not need further oversight from the municipalities. Just because you have the ability to enact such law as this doesn't mean you should. This will have severe, far-reaching implications felt from the employees at the mine sites, the vendors the mines purchase supplies from, fuel and oil distributors, equipment dealers, and so on.
30 seconds.
Not to mention the concern for being green. I know there were remarks at the 1031 work session, so you'll be adding some trucks on the road. If this material has to be trucked from off island, you're talking 2 trucks to every one needed now to supply current demand due to state divisible load laws, potentially even more at the height of construction season. This is premature in that you have no knowledge of our years of groundwater studies that are clean. We are in the middle of a 3-year voluntary study mandated by then Governor Cuomo that has excellent results thus far. You have not considered the effects on the already crumbling infrastructure, the additional emissions from likely double the amount of truck traffic during construction season. Any mines left on Long Island whose host towns do not follow suit with this law will have further control toward a monopoly on the sand and gravel market. How can mining be fine to conduct 30 to 50 miles west, but not here? This is not easy work. We do it because we're good at it, and we provide a necessary ingredient to the construction and building industry. We love what we do, but honestly, the sand mines are not feeling the love in return, Southampton. As far back as I can remember, this has always been an uphill battle to just exist and remain in business. Imagine having to go through life like this, not being able to make pertinent business or life decisions due to the fact that you never know what entity was going to come at you next. The town would likely not even be in this situation at the crux of having to amortize this use if it didn't take 2 to 3, sometimes even 5 years of litigation each time a mine seeks a modification to a permit.
Please wrap.
Have to wrap it up?
You're over the 3.
I'd like to leave you with this. As a young boy,
He is a mine owner, so.
As a young boy, I asked my mother, if you make a wish, do they come true? She said, yes, of course. When I woke the next morning in tears, she asked what was wrong. I was upset because my wish had not come true. I had wished that when I woke up, my toy trucks would be full-size equipment. Mom had to watch what she promised after that. But here we are today. The toy trucks are now very real. And the stakes for all involved, the community, the town, the mine owners, Greater Long Island, have never been greater. I thank you guys for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you want to submit what you have there to
Sure.
the clerk, we
I can
could
email it?
circulate.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, Adrian Esposito and then Zachary Murdoch.
Good afternoon, Supervisor and Council members. My name is Adrian Esposito. I'm the Executive Director of Citizens Campaign for the Environment. In way of background, Citizens Campaign for the Environment has worked for 40 years to protect our drinking water, coastal water, land, and air resources across Long Island and New York State. We have 120,000 members. We've also been engaged with the town and with Group for the East End and the Nordic Civic Council for 10 years in legal negotiations and legal cases fighting sand mining that has been inappropriate or outside the permit that they've been issued by the DEC. I'd like to respectfully disagree with the last speaker who said the DEC is doing a fine job. Well, they're doing a fine job acting as a business partner with sand mines, but not as a regulator for sand mines. And there is why we need your legislation. Your legislation is a thoughtful, effective way to eliminate sand mines that have either run out of sand, as you pointed out earlier, or are contaminating our drinking water or an inappropriate use for that particular area. Couple of things. Number one, special groundwater protection areas. Those are areas that are designated by Article 55 of the Environmental Conservation Law. There's only one in Southampton town. That's it. One. What that means is that that area is where the rainwater can recharge and replenish the underground aquifer for the vast amount of Southampton town. What are we doing? We're sand mining on top of that area, digging down closer to the groundwater source, and it has become polluted. Somebody said earlier, there hasn't been one reasonable study that shows pollution. False. That is not correct. In 2017, the Suffolk County Department of Health, the commissioner, had to go to court to get what's called a commissioner's warrant because Sandland, the mine that I'm talking about, wouldn't allow groundwater testing. They conducted, the hydrogeologist, Ron Paulson, who was here earlier, is one of them, a study on groundwater that they published in 2018. What did they find? Groundwater contamination. Very high levels of manganese. Somebody said, well, that's natural. Yes, that's natural. But is it unnatural to find manganese in very high levels in 1,000, 2,000 parts per million? A little bit of thorium, a little bit of radioactivity. That is not given to us by nature. That is given to us by pollution and by composting, which was an illegal activity. Number two is some
30
people
seconds.
said that, what about, do these sand mines run out of sand? Here is the inspection site for Sandland that says they're running out of sand. What's the date? 2006. What has the DEC done? Nothing. So that was almost 20 years ago. So the bottom line that I want to tell you is, number one is we need the bill so you can act when the regulatory agency fails to act. You know, we've been involved in the court cases. You've been funding the court cases. We should not have to do that. You should not have to spend taxpayer dollars on that. But you do, and you did the right thing.
3 minutes.
In conclusion, you're going to hear a lot about the DEC study. This is a study, this is a report masquerading as a study. This study that the DEC is doing is not any more authentic than if I put a tutu on a cow and told you I found the next rocket for Radio City Music Hall. It is a study where only sand mines who voluntarily raise their hand and say, I want you to study my groundwater, participate. And the ones who don't say, no thanks. That is not a study. But thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate the opportunity to comment on this important bill. Please pass it.
Thank you. Okay, we've got Zachary Murdoch and then John Mahoney.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor and members of the board. I'm Zachary Murdoch, an attorney who since 2007 has represented individuals with houses immediately south of Sandland in the country residence zone as a Sandland and directly above the sole source aquifer. Together with the town, we have simply tried to enforce the law at the site, and indeed we have essentially won every case all the way up to the highest court in the state. I have a brief statement to make, and I respectfully reserve the right to make a further submission afterwards. Thank you. Yet this mine, which the owner stated a year ago was closed and that all operations had been moved to its operations in East Hampton, has never, as required by law, cleaned up and reclaimed the over 150-foot deep, 31-acre hole in the middle of a residential district, nor has it brought the site into compliance with the town's zoning code. Indeed, now, after in February 2023, having its permits annulled and having been denied a 3-acre expansion by the courts, Sandland has filed yet another lawsuit in March of this year demanding an almost 12-acre expansion and $50 million in damages against the town, which we understand is ultimately the taxpayers. In fact, these mines, despite having pledged for decades that they would come to end of mining and reclaim and come into conformity with zoning, always need just a little more time. For example, in 1981, Sandland's permit said the life of their mine was 10 years. In 1991, the site's permit said the life of the mine was another 10 years. In 2006, the DEC inspection said the site was coming to the end of mining. And in 2013, the site's permit application said they have 8 more years of mining. In reality, now 43 years after the first permit, the site is mined 40 feet deeper than any valid permit allowed. And even after New York's highest court annulled their permits, I'm advised that they removed another 1,200 tractor trailers of protected aquifer filtering sand from the site. There are 7 listed Southampton mines on the DEC website. Virtually all are either abandoned, being used for other unpermitted activities, or overmined, or have had their permits annulled by the courts. Indeed, only one has a currently valid permit, and that one expires next year. Finally, I believe Councilwoman McNamara has stated previously that towns decided that sand mines are, quote, essential, close quote, not non-conforming uses. Respectfully, there is no such legal concept as an essential non-conforming use, and the idea is antithetical to the law of non-conforming use. In fact, the town in, I believe, 1983, which is 11 years after the area in which Sandland is located was upzoned, the town outlawed mining in all zones throughout the town. So these mines are considered essential by their owners, some of which are out-of-towners, and for whom the mines are cash cows. I deposed Mr. Tintle, the principal of Sandland, in
30
2010.
seconds.
He testified under oath that Sandland had revenues every year he could remember of about $5 million. And that didn't include his much larger affiliated mine in East Quad. Thus, this mine owner alone has apparently taken out hundreds of millions of dollars from these mines after the town especially ruled that mining in the town is prohibited.
3 minutes.
Thank you. Just to wrap. The mine owner's upside in never reclaiming these giant holes is sufficiently massive to make endless litigation and controversy acceptable cost of doing business. This court has the power and authority to put an end to it fairly, and finally, by adopting appropriate and indeed long overdue amortization legislation. Neither the mines nor the DEC will ever clean them up themselves. The town needs to do so. And 50 years, we respectfully submit, is more than enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to hand in your statement?
If I could submit
Email
it.
it?
Email it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Don Mahoney, and after that, David Lawrence.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor and board members. Don Mahoney, 321 County Road 39A, Southampton. I'm here not only as a lifelong resident of Southampton, but a taxpayer and business owner. From a business standpoint, this is just another nail in the coffin of local, hard-working members of this community. Your actions today are literally taking individuals' careers away and very directly impacting the fiscal livelihoods of their families. It's no secret that our local working class are struggling on a daily basis to afford to live here. And this board is now doing more to hurt that segment of our community. These individuals are your youth program coaches, your volunteers in the fire department and EMS who give back to the community, and this is your way of thanking them. You need to give this more thought and reverse course. If not, shame on you. If what Newsday reported on 12/8 is correct, this board is piercing the tax cap and raising our taxes by 11%. This is the highest of all the East End towns, all while giving yourselves a raise. Thank you again for thinking about the working class. So you will impact the fees that I and all other local service industry providers in the town have to charge your constituents as a cost for raw materials that will now be through the roof. Just adding fuel to the illegal, unlicensed contractors that are running rampant in this town with no enforcement. Again, another thank you to the companies and their employees who are operating above board and legitimately. So yes, I'm really pissed about what's about to happen to my tax bills going forward. But your own colleague and elected official, the superintendent of highways, stood at this podium at the last meeting regarding this item and pleaded with you as to what it's going to do his budget, which again will affect all of us taxpayers. Sounds like that fell on deaf ears and was not even considered. I don't have the exact quotes, but his dialogue was very rational. Majority of his work and budget line items will have a massive increase. The cost of asphalt will go up significantly, leading to less lane miles being able to be resurfaced annually, causing the town's infrastructure to get worse and worse. The cost per yard of concrete for curbs, sidewalks, salt sand mix for snow and ice control, footings for EV charging stations, and a whole myriad of other items will massively increase. And if he didn't have local suppliers who were willing to work around the clock, delivering sand to stop the breach on Dune Road and save Dune Road in Hampton Bays, if that was not an option, where would the material come from, and what would the cost have been to rebuild that area? You sit up here claiming to be environmentalists. Did you ever think about the ripple effect of this legislation? If you pass this, you'll have more heavy trucks traversing the town communities, doing more wear and tear to the roads and infrastructure. Again, needing to resurface quicker and that much of a higher cost. We will have more deterioration, and it will increase the road and repair cost even more exponentially. But I guess that's just another cost of living in the town as a taxpayer.
30 seconds.
And again, environmentally, the noise of the additional trucks, the exhaust fumes are real, but it sounds like you don't care about that and just have one politically motivated focus. And what's really disappointing is the taxpayer was the false information you put out in the local media, and when called on at the end of last meeting, admitted to false statements. Talk about being unethical and misleading. I hope you do some serious reflecting and look at the big picture of all the families and individuals you are directly impacting and the toll it will have on our tax bills and the town infrastructure. Thank you.
Okay, next is David Florence, and after David is John Tintle. Is David here?
He might be in the other room.
We're downstairs.
Well, we can take him out of order. John Tintle would like to speak, and then if David Florence is here, otherwise it looks like John Carone from Noyak.
Good afternoon, John Tintle, owner of East Coast Mines in Sandland. The stated purpose of this law is based on a falsehood. The law is proposed to protect groundwater while no known threat exists. We've been mining sand and gravel at East Coast Mines for 70 years. There's not been a single incident to cause concern for groundwater. Sand and gravel has been mined on Long Island for over 160 years. There is no evidence that any of the activity has negatively affected groundwater. Mr. Paulson got up here and spoke about a study he conducted at Sandland. That study was so unprofessionally done that any and all of the findings were thrown out by a court of law, proved to be false. We have listened to a lecture on removing industrial uses from residential areas in consistency with the comp plan. There has been no call from the comp plan or the community to eliminate mining. The comp plan recognizes the pre-existing mines and discusses potential uses once mining is complete. There is reference to East Coast Mines becoming a golf course and Sandland being a suitable location for affordable housing once mining is complete. Again, the comp plan recognizes the pre-existing non-conforming right to mine. At the same time, this board is discussing rezoning the residential land around the 3 mines in West Hampton. I believe you have maps of it right next to me here. You cannot claim that you're trying to protect the groundwater from industrial uses while at the same time rezoning residential areas to industrial in the core Pine Barrens and Aquifer Protection District. Hypocrisy is astounding. We've also sat here and listened to a lecture on zoning. This is perhaps the first time I can remember Bob DeLuca standing at the lectern and not reciting his vast expertise in secret, how he taught it at a class in Southampton. This proposal fails without the hard look of a type 1 action, and I am glad to hear that it has been listed as one. And why have we had no discussion about secret? Because this proposal fails after a hard look. Already with the closure of Sandland, we no longer have enough gravel to meet the concrete needs of the South Fork. Prices have risen 40% in recent years. Stone is now trucked in from the lower Hudson Valley. We used to supply Suffolk Cement and Wainscott with 2 trucks. Now, no less than 8 trucks are required to travel much greater distances to meet the needs of the community.
30
Unintended
seconds.
consequences aren't carefully considered. Costs rise, traffic increases, and affordability gets further out of reach. And for what? So a luxury golf course developer can get a few more million for his oversized spec houses? Does no one remember the winter of 92, 93 when Dune Road in West Hampton breached? East Coast Mines was open around the clock for a week while every truck that could haul sand was marshaled to stop the breach and save Dune Road.
3 minutes.
This proposal is in direct conflict with the best interests of your constituents. More troubling than that is the combination of political self-dealing and ignorance that has brought this proposal forward. This law should be voted down, and Robert Rubin's influence over this board needs to come to an end for the good of this community and the integrity of this board.
Okay, thank you. Next is David Florence and then John Carone. Kareem. Okay, well, David isn't here. So John would like to get up, and then after that, it's Peggy Gallagher.
Very good. John Carane, Sag Harbor. My family moved to Noyak in 1961, and I have witnessed over the decades the destruction your company has done at Sandland. And I'm shocked that if anyone has seen what has happened in Noyak and the threat that it poses to our drinking water, I'd like to thank Mr. Pell and you, Supervisor Moore, for having the courage to go up against these voices of I'm not sure how anyone could look at Sandland and possibly have a conflict with this proposed legislation. So I would just like to thank you very much. I hope you have the courage and conviction to move forward with this, because there's nothing more important than our drinking water. So when those who say the economics of legislation are too high, I would counter with the impacts of no legislation would be much more devastating. There would be no return from destroying our aquifer. That's it. To me, I get emotional about this because I've witnessed the destruction of what's happened in Noyak. And I welcome and I encourage anyone to take a look at Sandland. You can look at it at Google Earth, and you would say, how would anybody have the audacity to do what has been done to that site? I used to ride my bike through there when I was a kid. I've seen the whole evolution or destruction of that property. And to me, it's mind-boggling that anybody would come in here and criticize you as a board to want to do the right thing for our resident taxpayers here in Southampton. So please keep up the good work. Don't be deterred by the false narrative of the end of our economy out here. The end of our economy would be the loss of our drinking water. And so stay with it. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, John. Okay, we got Peggy Gallagher and then Terry Morris.
Hello and good afternoon. My name is Peggy Gallagher, I'm the president of the Noyak Civic Council. The Noyak Civic Council is a voluntary membership organization.
Hang on. That is very uncalled for. No,
What are they arguing?
they have
in the
fighting.
Security out there.
Yes. We're here to listen to everyone. Please be respectful to us and people who are sitting there who want to speak.
Exactly. Thank you. Please continue.
Sorry about that. Just from the top very quickly. My name is Peggy Gallagher. I'm the president of the Noyak Civic Council. The Noyak Civic Council is a voluntary membership organization that represents over 500 Noyak households. We celebrated our 70th anniversary of advocacy on behalf of Noyak in 2024, this year. The Noyak Civic Council, together with other local organizations that you've heard speak here today, and residents, has been closely involved with this issue for over 15 years. The Sandlands mine is in our backyard. We have been a part of the roller coaster of ups and downs that have occurred with respect to Sandlands, always with an eye to defending against the continuing threats posed by sand mining over this long course of time to our shared aquifer, our neighborhoods, quality of life, and as you've heard today, even our laws and many court orders. Consistent with the goals of the town's comprehensive master plan, we believe that sand mining operations no longer have a place in residential and protected areas for the many, many reasons you have heard today. On behalf of the more than 500 households that are Noyak Civic Council's members, I strongly encourage you to pass this proposed legislation. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay, so Terry Morris and then Jackie McKay. Hello, are you Terry? Yeah.
I haven't publicly spoke since college, so it's about 45 years.
Take
And
your
I'm
time.
I'm also hearing impaired. I wear 2 hearing aids, so I don't hear well. But I saw an ad taken out by John Tyndall, owner of Sandline Mine, crying about this billionaire golf guy destroying, his ability to take out sand from the pit. I am the face, I am the homeowner, just like her, who are affected by this Sandline mine. I live in Millstone Road, a half a mile south of the sand mine, and every single day that sand mine operates, every single truck that leaves the sand mine comes past my house. So I know more than anybody else what it's like for sand mine, what it does to neighborhood. It destroys the quality of life. It destroys the property values. Imagining yourself having to live right next to sand mine and having these trucks, these giant trucks driving past your house 45, 55 miles per hour recklessly. Like she said before me, it's a giant residential neighborhood. It doesn't belong where it is. Within 2 miles, north or south, there's not one commercial building outside of Sandline. The trucks destroy the road, they destroy everything. Anybody that's for Sandline either works for John Tyndall or does business with him. Nobody that's for Sandline lives near the gravel pit. The last thing I want to say is that I've been living on Millstone Road, Watermill, for 7 years, and over the years, I've witnessed Sandline mines ignore all violations and stop work orders. This has taught me that John Tyndall is not to be trusted. I'm asking you, the board, to make sure that Sandline is forever shut down. Thank you.
All right, Jackie McKay and then Elena Loretto. And after that,
Elena's here.
Elena, are you here?
Yeah, sorry. She was here.
Oh, here she
There
is.
she is.
Okay. Yes, I think Jackie McKay is not here. But if she comes in, we can fit her right in.
Hi, I'm Elena Loretto. I am the former president of the Noyak Civic Council, and you just saw my brand new president who was just elected, Peggy Gallagher. So she'll take good care of you by far. I want to thank the board, the town attorney's office, and the town's code enforcement officers for all their efforts over the past decade in trying to enforce the law against these mines and defending all of the lawsuits that the mines have brought against the town and the taxpayers. The town's unanimous victory at New York's highest court, upholding the town's home rule and zoning authority and annulling mining permits and stopping illegal mining, has been an enormous victory for Southampton residents and the environment, and of course our quality of life. It's the whole thing, you know. I speak for members of the Noyak Civic Council, and I believe that for many Southampton residents, when I tell you that that court victory and the closing down of Sandland Mine has greatly improved the environment and the quality of life in our neighborhood. Contrary to what the mines are saying, the traffic has improved dramatically. The hundreds of giant trucks and tractor trailers racing to Sandland and then turning around and heading back west out of Southampton, down Noyak Road, Millstone Road, Scuttle Hole, you name it. It's constant, used to be constant traffic. The roads now are safer. Traffic flows smoother. The air quality has improved, with no more dangerous silica dust blowing around. There have been no recent fires at the mine site since the town forced the mine to remove its illegal solid waste and mulch operations. Our neighborhood is much quieter, safer, and peaceful. We've heard for decades that these mines would close down, and the mine owners and the DEC repeatedly indicated that they would close. It was always just one more permit extension, and then another. And then at the end of mining, they said in 2006, this will be their last permit. Then came solid waste processing and mulch and construction debris operations. And then they were finally shut down by the town and the courts. The mines incredibly tried to expand, and some even went further into our aquifer, which is our drinking water. Let's face it.
30
if
seconds.
You have, wow, okay, you gotta hurry.
Went fast, right?
Okay, the town finally realizes that these dangers will not be addressed by the DEC. It's the town, you folks right here, who have to protect the aquifer. Do you remember the health department report in 2015 and 2016? It was 141 pages. And what was it? There's contaminants, there's pesticides,
3 minutes.
heavy metals, all that garbage that had to be drawn into the aquifer inappropriately, and that's our water source. That's another one. But anyway, I want to thank you so much. You know, it's time for amortization and time for reclamation. So please remember those two words for your population here. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay, next is George Lynch, and then after George is Lorraine Pacilio. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor, members of the board. I'm George Lynch from Quyock. I want to acknowledge the statement that Ms. McNamara read to us at the beginning here and express my hope that there will be other hearings, or at least another hearing at which, you know, our remarks can reflect a review and evaluation of that statement. You know, there's sand and there's water. And, yeah, let's really try and get it down here. They're sending this water, and we may need sand to whatever degree, you know, we need it, depending on who you're listening to, who's been talking here. But, you know, no one would argue that we need water. We need water to drink. We need water to water our crops, to irrigate our crops. In any contest between sand and water, water wins. Please, whatever else I say here, do remember that water wins. John Tintle, who was responsible.
George, could you please direct your comments to the board?
I'm sorry. Go to the crowd. John Tintle, who is responsible for the disgusting full-page ad that's been run in the press the last 3 weeks, also wrote a letter to the press. It's in this week, and he talks about mining beginning at East Coast in 1853, and his family taking it over in, 73. Talks about it being a family business and supporting various families and like that. You know, my family had a business in Long Island. They grew potatoes. They started long before this sand mining started. And it went on and on for generations. And then there came a day when the pesticides that the farmers were using were found to be deadly, really deadly, not just to the insects they were aimed at, but they were killing birds and other animals and poisoning the water. And it had to stop. And the farmers were not happy about this. At the dinner table, I would listen to my grandfather, and I promise you he was not happy about this. But it had to be. The farmers didn't take full-page ads in the paper impugning, you know, the integrity of public officials or claiming baselessly that there was no danger, no proven danger to the pesticides.
30 seconds.
They didn't write letters to the editor whining about family businesses and like that. You know, they just took the hit and they did what they had to do because that's what good citizens do. Since 1953, there's been mining at East Coast Mines. That means that these folks have been at the feeding trough for over 70 years. I think it's time they stopped. Thank you, and thank you for all that you do for Southampton.
Lorraine has a Cecilio.
She's there.
Yeah, I think it's more for the general public speaking portion. Okay. Aram Tertunian, who I saw in the hall, and then John Rayner. Here he is.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor, members of the board. My name is Aram Tertunian. I'm from West Hampton Beach, New York. Just want to say that I think amortization is the wrong way to treat sand mines. In the master plan, it says that the sand mine should be phased out over time through incentive zoning. And this board has used that technique many times. There are quite a few situations where, for example, junkyards were turned into condominiums. These were win-wins for the community and for the landholder, much less acrimonious. There was widespread rapport in the room when those incentive zoning cases came up, and I'd like to recommend that the board move in that direction as opposed to amortization. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Aram. Okay, John Rayner, and then Hope Sandro. Yes.
Thank you. My name is John J. Rayner. I live in North Sea here in the town of Southampton. I'm a long retired professional engineer and land surveyor, and during more than 35 years practicing those professions, I regularly appeared at hearings in this room on behalf of applicants for various regulatory approvals, so I appreciate the need for brevity. In 1993, I was retained by Bob Rubin to assist in a proposal to the town board to close the Bridgehampton Road Races property to all motor racing and related activities for 50 weeks of every year in exchange for permission to hold a professional racing event for 1 week in the late fall and another in the early spring. History will show that the town supervisor made it very clear that our proposal would not be approved. And somewhat like the sand mines at issue today, the racetrack had been operating for 40 years, had become an untenable use, and the only way forward was to find a suitable alternative. It was not the first time that a category of land use was significantly restricted or banned entirely. The adoption of zoning in 1957 was a highly controversial act that restricted land use rights. But the long-term result has been a framework for conservation of value for all of the town of Southampton. Another example that seems particularly applicable here was the town board's program of requiring the removal of billboards throughout the town, which featured amortization periods to allow the owners a period of time to recoup a significant portion of the value of their structures. With respect to the racetrack, it took us 6 years to find our way through the regulatory process. But in June of 1999, we began construction of a golf course that is now known as the Bridge. More than 2/3 of the property still remains in native habitat, and the course is one of the first to incorporate a comprehensive groundwater monitoring system to assure the protection of the aquifer below. The point of my message is that controversial actions that restrict or ban certain types of land use, when viewed through the filter of the passage of time, generally have proven to benefit all. On a personal note, my great-great-grandfather had a small sand mining operation along Peconic Bay, where he screened and washed sand and shipped it to the city by schooner in the 1800s. I don't know the particulars of the demise of that industry, but the succeeding 5 generations of our family have been able to make a living without mining sand. My great-great-grandfather was Charles Manley Rayner, and he was Councilman Pell's great-great-grandfather too. Thank you.
Thank you. And Hope?
Thank you for your consideration of these issues that are vitally important to each of us individually for our good health. And in honor of the oath you took in your office to protect public health and safety, relates directly to the issue of sand land mine that has to be stopped and the care of all our aquifers. Personally, my husband and I have had an old carriage gatehouse from 1891 in Shinnecock Hills, and we have the original wells. They've been replaced and upgraded, but we drink our water from the ground, and we know how important that is. So I ask you to consider that as we move past this, because this should be a settled issue. There's only one answer for this issue. And I ask you to apply that to all the aquifers in our town, including the one in Shinnecock Hills where the Southampton campus is of Stony Brook. Thank you for your consideration. I trust that you'll do the right thing, and I appreciate your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hope. Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom that would like to speak at the public hearing? All right, let's bring them in.
I don't know. Hello?
Yes, hello. Hi.
Oh,
How are
hi.
you?
Hi, it's Dorothy Frankel.
Hi, Dorothy.
I want to thank you all for this meeting. It's very, very informative. And I think everybody who lives here, Southampton, this whole area, of course, the water is number one. And living in Noyak, luckily we have the Noyak CC, which is tremendously helpful. And the sand mine, just like the racetrack, you know, it has to change, it has to go, because the water is essential for all of us. That's life. So I want to be brief because it's been a long meeting, but thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for tuning in, Dorothy.
Yeah, I know it was hard, but I'm grateful. You all have a lot of patience. These are very long meetings. Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. What else, Kevin? Somebody else? Oh, good.
I'm sorry. I didn't know how this is going to work.
No worries.
April Gornick, Sag Harbor, North Haven. I want to thank you, especially Councilman Powell, for introducing this legislation. I think amortization is it's a very fair way to go. And I first knew about the problems of sand mining through Sandland Mine. I can't speak with any kind of personal experience about
April,
any
could
other
you speak
one
up a little,
in
please?
Southampton, but it was introduced to me actually by Elena Laredo, who was the president, and now she's the president emerita of the Noyak Civic Council. All of the issues that we were talking about are the same issues that we were talking about in 2014. I'm late to this party of understanding and needing to be educated about the concern that's necessary about what was happening. I went to the Sandland mine with her. I looked at it. You could see that there was illegal vegetative dumping and illegal construction dumping going on with your own eyes. It's not easy to get to, but it was like very visible. The land is tremendously scarred, but that's the nature of mining. I also think it's really touching, frankly, to hear people talk about wanting their grandchildren and their children's children to be able to have groundwater here, and the importance of knowing that we are going to be dealing with so many multi-pronged problems with our groundwater because of saltwater encroachment as sea level rise happens, that I think this is very, very fortuitous legislation. And I just want you to hang tight on this. And I'm so grateful to you because after I first got involved with this issue, I followed all the time any announcement about how was Sandline doing, how were they responding to all these lawsuits, and they just kept being charged with what we were upset about, and then they'd somehow wiggle off the hook, and it would get worse, and then they'd want to expand. So I can't tell you how important I think this is, and I really, really commend you for your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, April.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else here?
Anyone else online, Kevin?
That's it.
Oh, okay.
Is there anybody else here?
I will then just read Assemblyman Thiel's statement that he sent to us. He said, "I'm sorry I cannot be with you in person this afternoon, but I'm away on a long-planned family vacation, which makes it impossible for me to join you. Nonetheless, I support the proposed local law currently before the town board relating to the amortization of nonconforming industrial sand mines in residential areas over special groundwater protection areas. It is critical, long overdue, and consistent with both the implementation of the town's comprehensive plan and its decades-long commitment to the protection of our groundwater resources. One thing I have learned in my nearly 50 years of public service is that protection of our environment and community character are among the most important and enduring legacy we can leave to future generations, and that is the motivation I see behind this proposed law. To be clear, the legal tool of amortization is a constitutionally consistent way to remove nonconforming uses while still preserving a landowner's underlying right to the values and uses which are conforming at the time of the conversion from nonconforming to conforming status. I have written such laws as a municipal attorney and understand precisely how they work, and for those not acquainted, it is a fundamental tenet of zoning to eliminate nonconforming uses over time. Moreover, the amortization process has been used locally on nonconforming uses ranging from billboards and nightclubs to asphalt plants, and it is appropriate here. After decades of discussion, debate, and increasing understanding of the vulnerability of our water supply, the issue made its way into the courts, and a decade later, the state's highest court admonished the DEC's unlawful interpretation of its obligations under the mining law and upheld local government's home rule right to exercise zoning authority over sand mines on Long Island, as was intended by the state legislature when it enacted special provisions in 1991, before I was even a member of the state legislature. As chairman of the Assembly Local Governments Committee, I have been steadfast in protecting home rule. Because the DEC's lacks oversight, we now find ourselves with several facilities that have long since ceased to operate as active mines, but have yet to ever be reclaimed as the law requires. Unreclaimed open pit mines pose a clear risk to public health and safety and must be formally closed and reclaimed in the public interest. For these facilities, which still have open permits to mine and established reserves under those permits, this law provides the opportunity to fully exercise their constitutional rights within reasonable timeframes to mine to the extent they can establish their legal right to do so. It is also very clear that such operations can make their case to the town ZBA and be granted operating extensions in cases where they can prove it will not harm the public interest. Sadly, in the last few weeks ahead of this hearing, this effort has become entangled in confusion, misstatements, and hyperbole about what is actually being proposed. I urge folks to consider carefully what is actually being proposed. This local law, like the CPF, the Pine Barrens Act, and the Peconic Estuary Program before it, balances the environment, the economy, and the rights of the landowners to yield the best policy for the protection of our community. Thank you for your time and attention to my comments and for addressing this issue. Fred Thiel, member of the Assembly. And I also received an email from County Executive Edward Romaine thanking me for my email. We had spent some time together at the big duck lighting. And so he mentioned that, he knew that the town board was considering the legislation to amortize the sand mines. And he said, I know how important sand is to the construction industry and in particular as aggregate in making of concrete. However, as I mentioned to you, glass can be crushed into a very fine particles that can be used as an aggregate in the making of concrete. This is something I have urged both the New York State DEC and the DOT to adopt. Such a rule would lessen the need for sand and help promote the recycling of glass. The same is true of ash residue from waste to energy plants. We need to maintain our natural resources while recycling glass products. Finally, the DEC needs to continue to ensure that sand mines do not threaten our aquifer. County Executive Ed Romaine. And I know he is in favor of that initiative of the recycling of glass, so that's an important next step.
Did he request that be read into the record?
No, he didn't. He responded to my email. So I was going to hand it to the clerk to enter into the record. But he did know that we were having a public hearing, and that's why he sent it.
You want Fred's too?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
All right, well, there was a comment that we had received from one of the attorneys that gives us advice, suggesting that perhaps instead of having the 1 year timing from and it's not 1 year from the date we adopt the legislation, it's 1 year within which then we can extend it to these other categories of timing that's set forth in the legislation also that Kathleen Murray mentioned about the, depending on the percentage of sand that was left to be mined. But one of the changes was, instead of having it be from the time we adopt the law, to have it be from the expiration of the then current mining permit termination date. So that's something that we can consider and talk about, changing the legislation. But given all the comments we've received and some issues that we want to discuss, then I think I would like to hold the public hearing over to, well, let's see what's the meeting. Not the December meeting.
Sorry. I mean, we are going to undertake a full secret analysis from this point on.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, right. So what's the timing on that? How is that
So
work?
you'll probably see on December 19th a resolution authorizing you to coordinate lead agency, seek, from your partners whether or not they want to act as lead agency. You have to allow 30 days for that. And then ultimately the goal is to, once you do your scoping, to kind of sync this hearing with that hearing so that they're at the same time. So at this point in time, I would recommend a January date, either the 14th or
The later
28th.
one. I'd say the later one.
Probably the later one, because you have
Yeah.
to allow, certainly we'll coordinate with the DEC, probably Suffolk County Department of Health Services, so you have to allow them 30 days to respond to that coordination request.
But if we were to, wanted
We
to
haven't
incorporate.
received any reports yet on this.
We did actually receive.
Did you get one?
We did,
Because-
yeah. I believe we received Suffolk County Department of, the Suffolk County Planning Commission. And they did it a matter of local determination, but your planning board still has not reviewed it.
I didn't see that one yet.
I believe.
Would that hearing on the 28th be the scoping session?
Well, it can be a continuation of this, but no, I don't believe we'll be ready on the 28th. It depends. It depends on how quickly.
I just
it
want to
goes.
make sure that that's an evening meeting, because, it's 1 o'clock is
28th
hard for
is a day
everybody.
meeting.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Could we change the time? Could that be modified?
Yeah, we were only having it
Put it
during
off
the
to
day
February if you
because
want.
it's
There's no
dark.
real urgency for timing wise, because secret was going to take months. So
Yeah,
you
so
could
I mean,
put it-
I'm saying, as long as it's not the scoping session, the scoping hearing, then I'm fine, but I think we should have that at a night meeting.
Sure.
And if it's in
Whatever
March,
the
it's in
board's
March.
pleasure is.
If we make this
second
change,
February one, if
one
you want.
change that the attorney suggested, we don't need to go back to the planning commission just to change the effective date, would we?
The DEC reference.
Yeah.
Supervisor?
Permit.
Yeah.
The permit expiration.
Yeah. Well, that'll be a product of the whole review and input that we're going to be receiving, during the
So any
secret
changes you make
analysis.
are still captured by the basic concept of an amortization law, which is what the planning commission has said is a local matter.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
you can still then make changes to the details within that amortization law.
Right. If we want to be safe, we can also send it back to them before the board is ready to make a decision. We could send it back to them and see if that changes their findings at all. But I would suspect that if they've already determined that it's a local matter of local determination, I doubt that'll change.
So for the meeting on the 18th, there's a resolution to
The 19th.
19th to
Your next meeting
declare
is-
that we're lead agency and to send it.
To coordinate, Madam Supervisor.
Mhm.
To see if any other involved agencies would like to be lead agency,
Mhm.
other than yourself.
All right, well then, we put this over until the 28th, at least. It sounds like we'll even need more time than that, but at least we'll have the date on the calendar. We can always adjourn it. So I move to adjourn the public hearing to January 28th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you everyone for your input. Is Julie Green still here? I don't know.
She is. I think she's in the back.
Because I think she might have been here for Tommy John's thing.
Yeah, I think she left.
I don't want her to hang around, just. Can you see if Julie Green is still here? I don't want her to be waiting. She might be waiting to
Julie
do.
Green?
Yeah, she was in the
Yeah,
back.
she was. just gonna run out for a second. Well, I'll look for
Tommy
it.
John put a walk-on about that, the Casabasso Castle. I didn't realize what it was at the time.
Tim's gonna go look outside.
No. But she didn't know that, so she might be
I
saying it.
didn't even know she had been asked to come.
I didn't either.
So I would have told her this wasn't probably. a good
I
idea.
know. Maybe Tommy John told her. I don't know. How are you?
Sorry, this time. I forgot who I was dealing with.
It's all good.
No. Because he's not here, and we want to have a work session and have them come in and explain, so she could come back to the work session and tell us about all the structures.
CPF, Jackie Fenlon was anxious to have it on for today.
I'm sorry, do you want Julie to stay or do you want to?
No, I mean, if she doesn't need to be here because we're not addressing it.
Walk out and.
Jim was looking for her.
Yeah. Janice, what were you saying about Jackie said why she gave it to Tommy John then? He's not even here.
We have to have a work session.
Well, that's why sometimes when if you communicated through me, I would have known and been able to. Sorry, Julie. Oh, I forget it's daytime. It seems like it's nighttime.
I know, yes.
That's not what I'm sorry.
Oh, thank gosh. Tommy John's not here, so,
We need to have a work session on. No, on,
Yeah, so you can talk to us about the castle and.
you're knocking down the building, right? We're keeping the little castle, we have the parties, and you're keeping
This work session would have to be in January, so Tommy John isn't going to be here anymore.
But he put the public hearing on for January too, so I don't think he minds that he's not here.
Well,
I think we should separately present at a work session when you have time.
Yeah.
Jackie didn't put it was
I don't mind walking it on. But we could do it on the 19th for the January 14th too, so it doesn't.
no,
Easier.
can't do it because
There's not enough time.
Some of the early ones I know.
because the press is not going to have notices in the January 2nd paper.
I mean, I think he set the public hearing for the
January
January
14th.
meeting. So can we have it on the work session this Thursday or next Thursday?
Well, you
then
can
we
have a
can't
work
use the
session
press.
on the 19th, but you're going to have a town board meeting at 1. So we can have the work session at 10 o'clock on the 19th. For this. That's okay, as long as you know that.
Thank you, Andy.
Full day on the 19th.
Thanks, Jackie. I mean, it's probably not a hurry, but you said she was anxious to get it on. Thanks, George.
I'm sorry, I forgot her first name. Doyle, what, the town attorney?
Kelly.
Kelly, I'm sorry. She's the one that prepared the resolution.
Is it time sensitive?
I sort of made myself known.
It was a walk-on. Kelly wanted to have it on, maybe you know more. She said, Kelly told me that.
I don't think it's time sensitive to preserve the castle. We're talking about
No, I
purchasing the
understand. I don't.
land
Kelly,
and demolishing
I guess
the
Janet,
building.
So even if we had to.
Jackie talked to Kelly, and Kelly texted me about could we get it on because it's related to the Casabasso. But I don't know that.
That public hearing is now closed, and we're voting on the purchase tonight. So
Yeah.
I mean, that could even go on the
Excuse me,
28th.
are we on camera right now?
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Just wondering.
I'm just saying that could even go on the 28th.
I don't know that. Yeah.
The public hearing can happen on the 28th.
Of January.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that.
Okay.
I don't know why that's. Why,
And then we can have a
what's the
work
significance
session
of
anytime
landmarking
now
it?
and
On
then.
things before
Yeah, I don't know
public
what the significance of
hearing.
landmarking
Put
is.
the work session on for January 9th.
And
Okay,
make sure June's available.
For landmark?
that's the first work session in 2025, is January 9th.
And then we'll notice the public hearing for the
Have a work
28th.
session January 9th.
Notice the public
And then
hearing
you
for
can,
the 28th.
you can have the notice of public hearing then on for the 14th.
And notice
can
it
be
for
in-
the 28th.
Yeah, you can submit it, you can talk about it during the draft review or whatever. Well, you have your own discussion about it, the reso will be on for the 14th town board meeting, and then do the draft review on the 9th.
I think that sounds good.
Okay.
Thank
Let's
you.
get back to this.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be ready to acquire, you know.
I read it,
time
Julie.
anyway.
It was great.
The report?
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting. I'm sorry we're hanging around here I thought you were doing it, I
History was
realized.
being made, so I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
History.
Well, we'll see what happens.
All right, so January 9th.
Yes, thank you.
calendar.
10 o'clock.
Yes.
I don't know.
What, you got a job or something, really?
Okay, hang on a second. Where's our agenda? That brings us to the public portion. Thank you, Ray. And the first card is Ray D'Angelo. And after that, Gail Lombardi.
The Reigns card is actually, should be there, but it's.
Yes, it is. It's yellow. I'm putting it last because I think it's last.
Yeah, how many do you get to have?
Well, there's 5 today. How many do you have?
What did I?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
How you been?
There's
Thank
6.
you.
All right.
How about that water? How about the sand?
Looks like the
Who knew?
All right. We're ready to. Can I start? Ray D'Angelo, I'm reading a letter as the president of the Hampton Bay Civic Association. The Hampton Bay Civic Association has concerns with the recent request by the developers of the Westwood property, the Shinnecock Nation, for a water service connection to the Hampton Bays Water District. This project continues to move forward in defiance of a stop work order issued by the town of Southampton. No plans have been submitted by the Shinnecock Nation to the town for approval. The Shinnecock Nation will not permit inspection of the construction taking place on the site. The Shinnecock Nation claims sovereignty over the Westwood property, claiming it is part of their reservation. However, the property is not held in trust by the U.S. government for the nation, as is their reservation. I just found out that their reservation is not held in trust either. A federal court ruled in 2007 that the property was not Aboriginal. The Shinnecock Nation has offered no evidence to support their claim that the property is Aboriginal. I think it's referred to in the latest Court of Appeals decision that there's no evidence that it is Aboriginal property. The Hampton Bays community has many questions about the project, but the Shinnecock Nation has been short and forthcoming with any information about its intentions to the Hampton Bays community or to the Southampton town government for that matter. The Hampton Bays Civic Association finds that in view of the current situation, the town board acting as the water commissioners of the Hampton Bays Water District, and the Hampton Bays Water District is owned by the residents of Hampton Bays, should not grant approval of the Shinnecock's water connection application until certain conditions are met by the Westwood developers, the Shinnecock Nation. One is the submission of all site and structural plans to appropriate Southampton town boards and departments for evaluation and approval. 2, the installation of the appropriate backflow devices to protect our water system. 3, plans for any hydrants or other fire suppression systems for the facility they are currently building. Agreement by the Shinnecock Nation to pay for the installation of protection devices needed to safeguard our water system. And 5 is the understanding that this is a commercial development and the Shinnecock Nation, the Shinnecocks are expected to pay for their water use. And 6, the Hampton Bays Water District must be permitted to inspect and maintain water infrastructure needed in the Westwood property. The residents of Hampton Bays have in recent years paid for infrastructure improvements to our water system. We have witnessed our water bills tripling during this period. The Hampton Bays Civic Association will not support or condone the approval of this water connection application until these conditions are met. Respectfully submitted, Ray D'Angelo, President of the Hampton Bays Civic Association.
Thanks, Ray.
Okay?
Yeah.
One other thing which I didn't want to conflate things, though. I always have that request and that we have some meetings of the water commissioners in Hampton Bays. We used to have also town board meetings at the Hampton Bays.
Can I interrupt you, Ray?
Sure.
Andrew, you listen to this? We have to get those cameras and microphones fixed in Hampton Bays so we can have the public hearings and the meetings and the water district meetings in Hampton Bays.
We're already working on it.
I heard we might be ready by February.
We're already working on it.
It's going to happen, Ray, because we're going to have no bathrooms here, so.
Maybe we'll
You're
have
always
more
Speaking of
meetings
water,
there.
You guys are always welcome to the senior
Backflows.
center, as you know, right, Supervisor?
And I had a
And a
wonderful
good
time.
lunch.
I had a wonderful time there with Wendy.
All right.
there were the meetings there, and we also had in the Flanders Civic Center
Yeah.
one time too.
But it'd be, I mean, I know that you can't have every meeting there, but also you could have a town board meeting every once in a while. You have a lot of seniors who don't travel. They don't travel at night, and I understand that now. I have some eye problems myself, so it really would be helpful. It'd be we are the big population center of the town, so I really think it would be very helpful and fair to have some meetings there. And the other thing, I gave my word to other patrons of the senior center to bring up. It's the parking situation. The winter's coming. They're concerned
30 seconds.
about, it snows and then we lose more spots and, they have their walkers and everything. We still don't have that situation rectified or a path forward for improving the parking situation for the seniors at the senior center. In October, you had that plan. I don't know what happened to it. It sort of like fell apart about having certain sections from 10 to 2 for seniors. And we really need some type of program. I mean, again, supervisor was there. I mean, we have like a lot of people have walkers, canes, and it's really needed.
Yeah.
I know
But
our
I just wanted to
engineer
s-
was following up with the people that own the shopping center that we share the parking with, so let me follow up with him.
I have spoke with the owners a couple of different times.
I
They've been
just want
very
to say that it's a wonderful program. I want to thank you all for supporting it. It's needed. It really is, and I really appreciate all your efforts to maintain it. So, as you know, the staff is wonderful. They really take good care of us. But like I said, if we can't access it, then it's useless to us. So, I really hope we can work together and get this solved.
But once code enforcement
Thank you.
moves, that's like 20, 25 parking spaces
Not
to
during the
allow.
day.
Okay. And I want to wish everybody good health and happiness in this holiday season coming and everything. And I appreciate all the efforts you've made this year on behalf of Hampton Bays. It's a breath of fresh air. I really appreciate it. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ray.
Jim, did you want to tell us?
No,
something about
I
the-
did speak with and they've been very cooperative. The owner of the shopping center, they've been very cooperative with us. And I've been coordinating with Ryan and Kelly in my office too, about the signs that Ray was mentioning about changing, and also trying to obviously move as much of the public safety cars out of the parking lot to allow for the seniors to use it. So, but
Well,
we've
what's
been
going on
coordinating.
with the signs then?
I have to check.
Intended
I have to check with Ryan because I know there was a design and working with Tom to create like certain areas where it could be senior parking only or a limited time, so we could.
It doesn't have to be all day, but.
You're right. Lunchtime areas.
10 to 2 would be good.
Right. So we were talking about like a 10 to 2, 11 to 2, something like that. Yeah. So
I
yeah,
appreciate whatever you guys can
but I
do.
appreciate just for the record, appreciate the cooperation of the. We own that portion of we own that building, and we own that portion of the parking in the shopping center, but the rest of the shopping center is owned by another entity, and they've been very cooperative with us about this idea. So.
Yeah. Well, let's try to finish it up. Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Gail Lombardi.
Yeah, it's Gail Lombardi. I'll get to my point, but regarding the parking, I said it the 2 meetings ago, and I'll say it again. The code enforcement shouldn't be parked there. They should be out in the field. There should never be, in my humble opinion, there should never be 20 cars. Different story for a different day. But I only have my Google law degree, my license. But it seemed very clear to me that the most recent
Graduated from jailhouse law.
I
That
my
you
jail-
both graduated from jailhouse law.
Well, yeah, so I use different term. A good thing about having those two things, I don't have to, if I screw up, I don't have to worry about getting my license suspended. That being said, so it's pretty clear to me that you now have grounds, more than you did before, to apply for an injunction against the Westwood's property and try to take a step back, slow the train down, and try to act. I'm staying calm because I feel that my superheroes, which are the 4 sitting here, are going to take that action now. We've heard you saying that you're going to wait for this case. I think it's very clear that they've agreed with the original decision, that it's in fee simple, and that the state and federal and local governments have jurisdiction. And what's happening now is every day I've sent you emails, we get the pictures. It's like a fast train going. It has to stop. everybody has to take a breath, and we have to figure out what legally, environmentally could be at that site, if anything. And I'm really looking to you guys now with this court case in place. You don't have to respond. I'm not looking for you to respond or mumble, because a lot of you mumble. I'm relying on you that in the next week, 2 weeks, we're going to hear the news, and that everybody, especially the people directly related, directly affected by that development, some here, some not here, are at the table, are discussing it with you on a regular and consistent basis, just like we did with Bess. This is imperative to the community, not just that site. So again, I have faith. It's the holiday season. This was a holiday gift, that you're going to use that gift appropriately. Thank you for your time.
Roger Morse, I don't see him, he left.
I think he's gonna be in Zoom.
Okay, Michael McCullough. And then John McKeon.
Hi, good afternoon. Michael McCullough on behalf of Friends of Peconic Preservation. We were heartened by the decision that the appellate division gave in DOT against Polite. We read the decision to say that while the court didn't decide how the nation holds the property, that the state should have a reasonable expectation of being able to regulate that piece of property. We read that to also say that the town and county, if given the same opportunity for an injunction, would be given one. So I don't want to repeat what Gail just said, but we're asking for two things. Number one, we do think it's time for action, and now it's time for an injunction. The second thing is nothing stops the town from enforcing the stop work order. Just like the court said that the state and I think town and county have a reasonable expectation of regulating that property, the nation really should at this point have an expectation of being regulated. So the stop work order is something we think should be enforced immediately. Now, once that dust settles, there is not within our group a consensus of what should happen next. So I'm about to say something now is my personal opinion, not Friends of Peconic Preservation. I've been sort of listening to what the nation has to say about their needs and what they want to do with that property. You know, 2.5 years ago, Diane Adams and I met with Brian Polite, his group, and with Jay Schneiderman. I think Jim Burke was also there. And we discussed what we thought are reasonable expectations of the nation, and they told us what their expectations of that property were. That dialogue should have continued, and unfortunately it didn't. So now might be a good time to resurrect those discussions. Again, once the dust settles, right, we're expecting some action, but once the dust settles, that probably needs to be done. Because we think there are things that the nation could do to improve their position, and that's just going to cause more litigation in the future. So again, once the dust settles, once the action is taken, there probably should be some effort to bring the nation, the community, the residents of the neighborhood, and yourselves together to come up with some sort of reasonable expectation that all sides can agree on. But again, we look forward to seeing some action on this, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
John is here. You said?
I don't think John is
McKeon?
here.
Oh, you said he's not here. Lynn Murcott, and then Gail Murcott. Well, that's how it was handed to me.
It better be.
You
Keep
can
an eye
let your
on it.
sister go first if you want.
I think you both should go at the same time.
Somebody
It's very
else
important
said
that
to
one-
me, well, you get 3 minutes and she gets 3 minutes, but she said, yes, but I have to take my 3 minutes to calm her down. But anyway.
Actually, you have 7 minutes because you always, you know, you're allowed to run over a few seconds. So if you go together.
Anyway, I'm back again, and the same, you know, I want this project stopped immediately, just like everyone else in Hampton Bays does. The town should be stopping it. You have the means to stop it. The only other thing that we can do is all bring our cars up there and block everything And then it leads to problems. I mean, you know, it turns into a fight, which we really don't want. We would like you guys to, you know, to pick this up, take the ball and run with it. It's only fair to the Hampton Bays residents and everybody east of the canal. You know as well as I do, it takes hours to get here. And then it's only gonna make it worse with that kind of traffic in Hampton Bays. So, I'll be up here every time begging you to do your job and stop this immediately. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
Thank you. Very calm.
Very nice. I'm Gail Marcotte from Hampton Bays, and I know you guys by now have read the New York State Appellate Court decision. So, I mean, my interpretation of that, not being a lawyer or anything, but my interpretation of that is that they came this far from saying that they didn't own the land at all. They have no idea whether the land was owned in fee simple or not, which is something that we had brought to you and Jim back in October. With all the information we had, we believe that they traded that land in the 1600s and therefore had no more rights to it. That being said, it seemed to be agreed in the court from both sides that it's in fee simple. So, you know, if I was a lawyer, that wouldn't have been the position I would have taken. I would go back to start. But in any case, I do believe that at this point that they've read the decision also, and they do see that the decision is, you know, that it pretty much leaned in our favor in every way. But with that being said, I don't know if that makes them nervous or if it makes them just want to take it further. So I do believe that we need discussions. We have not been privy to any of your sit-downs with them, and we would like someone at the table with that from our organization. You can pick the nicest person from our organization, and we'll try to help you figure out who that is. Not her. But in any case, you know, we really believe that we need a seat at the table. We need to talk to them. You know, that's a big piece of property sitting right in the middle of Hampton Bays, and what they're doing to it is totally devastating. And, you know, and I believe the worst part is yet to come when they put that casino in. And once everything's built, I'm just not as sure that, you know, that you're gonna be as willing to say, take it down, even the billboards. I mean, what's the position now? Are they gonna stay? Are they gonna come down? I mean, according to the court, they should come down, or could have, or should have been given that restraining order from being built, but they're there, so now what? You know, so I just wanna say that, you know, you have the decision, you have enough from the neighbors, we'll still be back every time, but I hope after next week we don't have to, because you guys get on the bandwagon and shut it down until there's a clear path as to what can and will be done with that property that's agreeable to everyone. Maybe we don't get everything that we want, but, you know, at least we don't need this. Thank you very much,
Thank
and
you.
as my sister said, you have a nice night and have a nice holiday also.
Yeah, thank you too.
And last but not least, Lorraine. Is it Pacelio? Pacelio.
Thank you very much. It was a long afternoon. I feel more for you than for me, sitting there. My name is Lorraine Pacelio, and I live in Flanders, in Bayview Pines community. And I have to put these on. I'm the president of Bayview Pines Civic Association, but today I'm speaking to you on in my individual capacity. I'm very concerned about the ongoing lack of communication between all of you, including other town representatives and us, the citizens. I have voiced my concern about the lack of communication for several years, yet nothing has improved. But with new faces, I have new hope. The prime example was presented at today's public hearing regarding the remediation project for Long Neck Boulevard in Bayview Pines. Although we have sought help with the flooding issues at the end of Long Neck Boulevard over a period of several years, no one reached out to tell us about the project as it developed. On November 22nd, I emailed Mr. McArdle, copying all of you, and he replied with a copy of the notice of public hearing that's taken place December 10th, today. I have emailed him back 3 times requesting more information and details and for somebody to come and discuss the project with us, but I have received no details whatsoever. Not until today have I seen this. And I asked, why?
We didn't see that until today either, just so you know.
It's a major piece of money that's going into our neighborhood, and we don't know what's going on. And here you have a community requesting help for years, yet once help is coming, no one bothers to even say hi. We have an update, let's talk. Another example happened this past summer when I received a call from a neighbor telling me there was a tree cutting crew taking down a tree on CPF property down by the beach. This property is bordered by 2 houses and the beach on the backside. When I went to the location on Pine Avenue and I spoke to the crew, they hardly spoke English and were from Brooklyn. I called the police and I called CPF. Finally, somebody from CPF called me back and told me that they hired the tree removal service. I asked why, but have yet to hear the reason. The tree was not particularly tall, but it was very wide, probably over 100 years old, and probably dead for some time, most of it. This tree was not close to the houses on either side, and as I said, it was bordered by the beach. So it's very hard to understand why this was ordered to be removed and at what cost. With all that said, why wouldn't the CPF representative department at least alert the neighbors or the civic association that operates in this small neighborhood of the upcoming work? Other communication problems we have had with the town are with the town code enforcement department. We consistently have to ask for updates and information on code violations that have not been resolved over a long period of several years. Instead of us asking for the same information and over, why can't they hold periodic meetings with us to provide updates for our members? We are not the enemy, but ignoring us and making us do unnecessary work is not improving your relationship with my neighbors and the people who vote for you. Please consider this a request for a formal process requesting a town representative to meet at least semi-annually with us. Specifically, I am requesting our area representative from the board and a representative from Highway or an
30
engineer to meet with us at our next meeting at the Crohan Center, January 24th, Friday night, 7 p.m. And I thank you very much for your time.
Lorraine, like your representative, you should email your representative with all your questions. Let him answer, like I do not see with Michael and the lady
Do you know
who's
who-
in
yeah,
charge
do-
of that.
I believe it's Tommy John.
Oh,
And he's been
liaison, Tommy
emailed
John.
consistently
Yeah,
all
okay.
across
So you-
several years.
Email myself and Michael, and we'll take a look at it. And maybe we'll try to be up there on the, that's okay with you, Michael.
No, you can handle that.
Can I take this for my neighbors so I can?
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
the big one?
Go ahead.
How long, just Lorraine, because I'm just curious, how long have you been working on this
I
with
have
the
been working on
previous?
it since
with the-
2022, but Chrissy.
And so you've been working directly with Tommy John on this particular matter?
He has never
Okay.
been directly
Okay.
with me, but other people that have been in the Civic Association have, but I've been working on this particular.
Okay.
There's a lot of needs in our neighborhood, a lot of needs.
Okay.
And so, the trustees also are aware of problems that we
Yeah,
have with
because
the
when I was
beach and the erosion. And, besides code enforcement, this project, the beach erosion, I try to keep everybody informed, but we don't get any response. So this is our way of saying, we need somebody to come every 6 months or something to come and meet with us. Because by the time I email everybody back, then it's like, oh, well, what day can we meet? When can we meet? And then
So-
it's more.
So it sounds like you're having a meeting with the Flanders Civic Group.
Yes.
So you've made connections with Andrew Unault?
Angela.
Angela Unault?
Angela's Franca.
Angela is Franca.
They're
That's a separate, different
But you use the
organization.
Crohan.
Yeah.
That's
We use the
the
Crohan
same
Center,
account.
yes.
That's a little bit
And we
more
know,
stuff.
we're aware
Still
of what Franca
appropriate.
does, and we're aware of who everybody is at Franca, yes.
No, there's a Civic. It's a Civic Association.
Yeah.
So
They're
you,
a civic association also.
I know,
Yes.
but what I'm saying, you're in the same region.
Yes.
It would be good to also have some
We are
communication
not
with them.
connected
and
with them.
You don't want to
No,
be?
they are separate.
We have separate issues because of
Okay.
our beach.
Okay.
Flanders has a lot more issues. You could see all the issues that we have at our beach in our little neighborhood. They have much more.
Okay.
But I don't see them doing, as much or what they could
I
be
only
doing,
asked,
I don't know.
and I only asked because they've been, she's been here. She's been a really
Yes.
good spokesperson for her community.
Yes, she
And again,
has,
I'm not
yes.
liaison to Flanders, but we will look into how we could create a situation.
And Lorraine's
where-
been very, very involved in her area, Bayview Pines area. We've worked with her over the years. She's
I thank
she's
you
very
for your-
conscientious, and she's a good, strong advocate for her.
I thank you for your service to the community.
And I think
Sorry
Ryan
for
is
your,
aware of a lot of the issues. I can just ask him to make it a more routine follow-up as to what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
But email me
I will.
the questions so I would have some of the answers by the 24th.
Okay, we'll do. Once I disseminate this map, I will have a lot of questions that people will be asking about. Because, I just want to show you, this rendering, I'm sorry to take up more than my time, but you see this down here, where they're putting the cement and this little
There's no
walkway?
cement, it's sand.
So this is gonna be sand?
Yes.
It's like a,
Okay.
it's a,
Sand
it's a-
planted
It's
with
gonna be
grass.
surrounded by cement?
No.
No, that's,
It's sand
Cement.
planted with
It
beach
looks
grass.
like cement.
it's
Okay,
it's not a
is there
cement.
parking over there?
We'll have
No,
somebody
that-
at that
that-
meeting to.
I believe, and I even saw this first. I think he described that as like a platform, didn't he? Like a.
It's a sand
Walkway.
dune
That-
planted
which-
with beach grass with a walkway, like
Yeah,
a ramp
that's what
that
he
goes
said.
from the road up to a platform, and then there's stairs down to
Yeah,
the
I
beach.
think I think what Lorraine is pointing to is the platform, but we'll have VHB involved.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate your time.
I'll see if there's a better rendering we can send you to.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Zoom.
Zoom, anybody on Zoom, Kevin, for public portion? Okay.
People were gonna try to get on, but they left.
There's some people.
There's two. Sure, one's Roger.
It is Roger.
He's meeting on Zoom.
No, it's Carol. Hi.
Come on up.
Not first.
No.
It's Carol.
Good, I figured it out. Hi, everyone. I
Hello.
can't see you. Not funny. It's good to see you all.
It's not her. It's us.
Carol McNeil,
We're
Hampton
having a little
Bays.
trouble hearing you, Carol.
It's not her.
Oh, Carol
Yeah,
McNeil,
better.
Hampton
It is her.
Bays. That better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's better.
All right, with the recent New York State Appellate Court decision on the monuments, this will give the town authority to make land use decisions on the Westwoods property, which should stop the construction of the gas station now. And hopefully allow, now this is something, Hampton Bays Water Authority to drill a well on the end of Quail Run without fear of contamination for needed drinking water in our community. Because I guess it was last month or 1 month, you were supposed to approve something for them to drill. When I called, they said, oh, they're not doing it because of the gas station. I mean, that's needed water. The construction has been going from the nation, and with the total disregard to the surrounding neighbors, my quality of life has been drastically reduced to physical, emotion, and psychological pain for the last 10 months, of which I cannot get back that time. When I've been watching this entire board meeting, there's been such concern for the wildlife and their habitat, the water surrounding everything. And people mention that the town zoning laws, your job is to seek and promote the health and welfare of all of us. And I don't feel like that has been done. I feel it's been put on. And, I appreciate all of your emails. I guess until I actually see this workage or work stop, I maybe will believe someone. This has just been devastating for us. The one gentleman mentioned about they need to plant trees. I don't want to see any development on this land. I don't think they have a right to. It said it was for hunting and gathering of firewood. That's what originally what was done. If they want to live on it and build homes, that would be great. But I think, from even the governmental agencies, as with this sand mine issue, the DEC seems useless, and I'm concerned that the EPA is useless. There's been no oversight, and I'm afraid this issue will turn into a sand mine issue where 15 years down the road, oh my gosh, now we're going to deal with it. So don't let this become that. Please, please do the right thing for us and stop the destruction. And I want to thank you for your timely attention to this. I really do. I pray that
your hearts will know what the right thing is to do, because there's nothing that feels right about this. This type of development in this place feels so wrong. And I hope that you have the power and you take your authority and use it for the best interest of all of us. Thank you. Have a very happy and blessed holiday. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
She looked tan. I'm jealous.
For McNeil, well, that's, I don't think he's married to her.
Her husband looks like a McNeil.
Yeah, he does.
He's kind of a ginger.
Yeah.
She looks Italian.
Yes, hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Thank
Hi,
you
Roger.
for the Zoom and thank you for listening to me. I do appreciate the right to speak, and it is a privilege that I'm thrilled to have. The question I have is on Westwoods, that we now have some official state above us rulings that I've read through several times, as I'm sure you have, that end up with the monuments case, or the billboards as you wish to call it, from being fee simple area there, no permits, stop work orders, and the whole thing of Westwoods being overall too disruptive to Hampton Bays as one of the final verdicts in the entire case. Just not to repeat things, Ray and Gail, my predecessors, and Lynn and Gail, I concur with all of what they've already told you, so you don't have to listen to me for a second time. I will spare you that. Beyond that, April 10th, I made a presentation to several of the board members and Mr. Burke for what's going on and historical records, and I gave a very complete packet to that. That was April 10th. Others even started the awareness of the board earlier than that, like February. So it's taken months, we've heard nothing, and nothing has happened. This has led to be my question. I'm in a panic, and what else can I do? Because it's going to be too late if it isn't already. There are many others like me that don't know what to do. So the stress that this has all caused is immense. It's considering me leaving the area because I can't tolerate this. Others' homes have already cracked. Mine is next, I perceive. So the question is what can I do? And my question to you is, what are your next steps to revere this decision by New York State in terms of all kinds of things with Westwoods, and what you are going to do in terms of action, which is the only thing I want now, is stop work while we figure this out. That's all I want. What are your next steps on that issue? And I'd like to say thank you and have a Merry Christmas, but it's not happening wonderful at my end. This is not good. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Roger. We'll see you at the next meeting.
Is that it?
Okay. All right, then I move to close the public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. So who is gonna read?
I think
He wrong.
he got people that are sponsored with him on all of them.
Oh, he did? Except the walk-on. Okay,
Are we ready?
ready. Let's do it.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1178, co-sponsored with Councilman Schiavone. I am going to withdraw this resolution until we identify some of the strengths of the ADU Plus program, as well as examine a comprehensive model for maybe implementing this in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1416, co-sponsored by the entire board, to authorize funding for water quality improvement project for the Suffolk County Water Authority at Old Country Road Water Main Extension Project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1417, co-sponsored by Councilmembers Schiavone and Pell, to authorize funding allocation for the water quality improvement project requested by the Town of Southampton Highway Department for stormwater remediation for Long Neck Boulevard in Flanders.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1418, co-sponsored by Councilman Pell, to authorize the purchase of reflective sign faces and materials using Town of Huntington contracts. Bill, you want to second it?
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1419, co-sponsored with Councilman Pell,
Second.
to authorize purchases from Northeast Sweepers and Rentals, Inc. for Ravo Fiat Group sweeper parts and service using Sourcewell contract.
Second it again.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1420, authorizing the purchase of Americans with Disabilities Act curb and sidewalk requirement with Dayall Concrete Corp. using Suffolk County contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1421, to authorize purchases of audio-visual equipment and IT peripherals from B&H Photo and Electronics, doing business as B&H using Omnia contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1422, authorizing the purchases of the concrete, asphalt, and related site work improvements from Eastern Suffolk BOSIS contracts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1423, authorize supervisor to sign contract to extend for street sign, blanks and reflective sheets and traffic marking tape and Geo Supply Inc., National Highway Production, Inc., Lightning Enterprise of Ohio LLC.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll read this one. Town Board Resolution 2024-1424, sponsored by Councilman Schiavone, co-sponsored with myself and Councilman Pell, authorizing the supervisor to execute a service agreement with Source Pass Contemporary LLC.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution Town Board Resolution 2024-1425, authorizing the supervisor to execute the 2024 Human Understanding and Growth Services HUGS contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Cindy, could I be added as a co-sponsor on that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1426, authorize supervisor to sign contract with Pavement Service, Inc., multiple project plan and pavement service to be provided to the Highway Department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1427, co-sponsored by Councilmembers Iacilli and Scavone, to authorize the supervisor to sign an amended contract with Greenman Peterson, Inc. for professional surveying and engineering services for the Noyak Road pedestrian enhancements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Going to withdraw Town Board Resolution 2024-1428. There's some confusion about the term, so we're gonna have to meet on that and reschedule another resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town, I don't think you have to vote on it. Withdrawal. Town Board Resolution 2024-1429, to authorize the supervisor to sign a contract extension for banners and signs with Fisher Signs and Shirts LLC.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1430, authorizing the purchase of 2023 Ford F-150 4x4 Super Crew from Otis Ford, Inc.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Town Board Resolution 1431 of 2024, authorize the purchase of food products and related supplies from Omnia Partners with Premier Inc. with distribution to U.S. Foods.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1432, co-sponsored with Councilman Scaroni, authorize supervisor to execute interlocal agreement, a IMA with Town of Islip to accept the town commingled container obtained through its recycling program.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1433, co-sponsored by Councilman Schiavone, to authorize the supervisor to execute the 2025 fire protection contract with the Village of Quogue for the North End Quogue Fire Protection District.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Town Board Resolution 2024-1434, co-sponsored by Councilman Scavone, to authorize the supervisor to execute the 2025 fire protection contracts with the Village of Sag Harbor for the Bay Point and Noyak Fire Protection Districts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1435, sponsored by Councilman Scavone, co-sponsored by myself, authorizing the supervisor to execute a 2025 support agreement for MRI Software LLC for the Town of Southampton Housing Authority for the administration of the Southampton Town Housing Authority Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 1436 of 2024, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Long Island Telecommunications and Electronic Services, Inc. for portable radios at the Hampton Bays Water District.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1437, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Young Associates for surveys for 1253 and 1195 Noyak Path, Bridgehampton.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1438, authorize the supervisor to sign contract extend to furnish and install asphalt with Quazzini Asphalt Inc. and Rosemar Contractor Inc.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Town Board Resolution 2024-1439, co-sponsored
Sunday, you can add me to this as well.
by the entire board, to authorize the supervisor to sign the documentation necessary to accept a Department of Justice grant for the implementation of body-worn camera program for the Town of Southampton Police Department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Town Board Resolution 2024-1440, co-sponsored by Councilwoman McNamara, to award and authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with Ecotech Management, Inc. for electronic waste removal, recycling, and disposal programs.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1441, to amend the 2024 budget for various departments.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1442, co-sponsored by Councilman Pell, to amend the 2024-2028 capital budget and add a capital service project for the SYS Center roof replacement.
Gonna table this?
Dorothy wanted us to do this because of the
Okay.
ARPA money.
Okay. All right. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1443, to recall and rescind the Town Board Resolution number 1397 of 2024 as it relates to the scheduling of a special election.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That'll be introduced in January.
Town Board Resolution 2024-144, co-sponsored with Isella and Scavone, the elected to consider former zone change from R20 to MF-44 for Contactley House, authors develop of 9 single homes for affordable ownership on 90 North Sea, Mecox.
Second.
North Sea.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1445, I'm gonna table
Two.
next meeting,
Okay.
if possible.
19.
Yes, please.
Second to table.
Yes. All,
Okay, thank you.
all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1446, to set the town board meeting dates for 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, that's yours.
Town Board Resolution 1447 of 2024, co-sponsored with Councilman Iacilli. Authorization of cost reimbursement waiver for the Eastport Chamber of Commerce Lighting Up the Trees event held on December 6, 2024 from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I'm sure it was wonderful.
I didn't go. I wasn't able to make it, but it. I heard it was
beautiful.
really good.
And the downtown is so beautifully decorated too. Okay, so.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Downtown, what am I saying? Town Board Resolution 2024-1448, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, to authorize the Peconic Bay Region Community Preservation Fund tax refund pursuant to the first-time homebuyers exemption for Alexander and Camilla Cardenas.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations on the house.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1449, sponsored by Councilman Scavone, co-sponsored by myself. Release of maintenance bond for Metro Storage located in the hamlet of Tuckahoe.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Town Board Resolution 2024-1450 to appoint Joseph Mullen to the senior accountant position in the comptroller's office.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1451, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, to appoint Peter Strecker to Assistant Director of Youth Bureau position from the Civil Service list.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to withdraw Town Board Resolution 2024-1452. Town Board Resolution 2024-1453 to appoint Zamora Arango Medina to the Youth Counselor Spanish-speaking position from the Civil Service list.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1454, co-sponsored by the entire board, to authorize the acquisition of 528 Pleasure Drive in the hamlet of Flanders, New York, and to amend the CPF management and stewardship plan to include the property.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 1455 of 2024, co-sponsored by Councilman Scavone, Supervisor Moore, and Councilman Pell. Authorize the acquisition of fee title for the property located at 15 Lewis Road and acquisition of enhanced development rights of properties located at 17 and 19 Lewis Road, East Quogue, and amend the CPF management and stewardship plan to include the properties.
Who's going to second it?
Second.
Oh.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It was Michael's turn.
Well,
Town Board Resolution
You were
1456 of 2024, co-sponsored with Supervisor Moore, authorize the acquisition of a conservation easement and restricted use easement for the properties located at 210 Clay Pit Road landlocked, 1215 and 1355 Bridgehampton Sag Harbor Turnpike, and CPF management and stewardship plan to include the property.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1457, co-sponsored by the entire board, to authorize the acquisition of 1195 and 1253 Noyak Path in the hamlet of Bridgehampton, New York, and to amend the CPF management and stewardship plan to include the property.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2024-1458, co-sponsored by the entire board, to authorize the acquisition of 59 Montauk Highway in the hamlet of West Hampton and to amend the CPF management and stewardship plan to include the property.
Second.
On the motion, I would just like to say that there will be another public hearing to landmark the castle, and Julie Green and, you know, our historical committee have put together, an amazing 40-page document detailing the history of that building. So I look forward to that.
That'll be
work
interesting.
session and public hearing.
What's the date, Janice, for that work session?
January
9th. Thank
My
you.
birthday.
Oh,
One of my uncles painted one of the musketeers
Really?
really?
like 70 years ago.
This will be fun for all of us to
It's
see.
been there a long time.
Get the vote.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then we have the four walk-ons.
Town Board Resolution 48336. 2025 notice of bidders for Lake Agawam South parking improvements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's with
Town-
the trustees.
That is
Yeah, we're working with the trustees.
very good. Town Board Resolution ID number 48351, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, to authorize the purchase of roofing products and services from Roof Services of New York, a Tectic America Company LLC, using Omnia Partners contract to provide roof repair at the David W. Crohan Community Center.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Town Board Resolution ID number 48352, which is to approve the warrant number 23.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Town Board Resolution ID number 48357, to accept awards and authorize the supervisor to execute any and all documents from the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority Clean Energy Community Program Action Grants for the purchase and installation of solar panels on the Waste Management Recycling Center at 1370 Majors Path.
Second and co-sponsor, Madam Clerk. Merci.
All right, I think that's it. We didn't vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I seconded.
All right, well, if that's it, then I move to close the meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.